Monday, October 13th, 2025. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Tigan.
Present.
Councilor Nishioka.
Present.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
Councilor Gwynn.
Here.
Councilor Brown.
Present.
Councilor Vang.
Here.
Councilor Nordyke. Councilor
Here.
Varney.
Here.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Here. All right, Councilor Tigan, would you mind leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely.
Okay, welcome everyone. We obviously have a lot to get through tonight. I just want to remind Council and everyone in attendance that this is an environment where we promote respect and peace. So please hold your applause when you can to save time, because we don't want to be here all night. And none of that commentary or hissing and booing after would be really helpful. So thank you. All right, Councilor Nishioka, do we have any additions to deletions to the agenda?
Yes, I move for additions and deletions to the agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second by Gwynn. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. The addition is that 6G has been moved to 5F and 5E has been deleted.
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. All right, we're moving on to Council and City Manager comment. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Today is Indigenous Peoples Day. I want to recognize and acknowledge that we are gathered on the land of the Kalapuya, who today are represented by the Confederate Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederate Tribes of the Siletz Indians, whose relationship with this land continues to this day. I want to offer gratitude for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to learn, work, study, and be in a community on this land. I also want to acknowledge that our city's history, like many other, is fundamentally tied to the first colonial developments in the Willamette Valley. And so finally, I want to respectfully acknowledge and honor the past, the present, and future Indigenous residents and constituents of Salem and the Willamette Valley. Thank you, Mayor.
That's great. Thank you, Councilor Vang. Anyone else? Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. And Councilor Vang, that was lovely. Thank you very much. I don't see Beth here today, but I just wanted to make note of something. National Walk to a Park was celebrated on Thursday, October 9th, and Councilors Varney and Matthews joined me for a walk from Washington Elementary School to Livingston Park, where Rob Romanak led students along with Beth Smith, city staff, and guests to celebrate the newly installed playground equipment. The kids had a great time, especially on the new equipment. While I was walking with Beth, I learned that she was honored, or will be honored at the 2025 Alice Awards ceremony on October 16th in Portland. The Street Trust has chosen Beth Smith, Safe Routes to School Program Director for Salem Kaiser School District, as the recipient of the 2025 Safe Streets for All Award. This is pretty, she was pretty thrilled about this, and it recognizes individuals and programs making measurable differences in improving street safety to everyone. And Beth's leadership in the Salem Kaiser Safe Routes to School program and her advocacy for initiatives like Senate Bill 450 and the Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day has been transformed how Oregon communities view student and family safety. Congratulations, Beth. As I said, I don't see her.
Is she here tonight,
I
Councilor
don't,
Nishioka?
I was looking for her. I don't think she is.
Well, let's hear.
I also just wanted to give a quick shout out to Kristen Rutherford and Krishna Namburi. There's been several problems at the Pringle Parkade with racing car drivers and parties, and I know many of my constituents have emailed me and called and very frustrated by all of this noise in the middle of the night. And Kristen and Krishna are finding ways to try to improve opportunities for security. The police come when available and when called, but it is a continuing problem for the nearby residents. And so I just want to thank both Kristen and Krishna for trying to find solutions. There you are. I was looking for you. So anyway, thank you for all that work. I know it's not been an easy thing to try to deal with. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, folks. Great to see you all, and good evening also to those online. I can't put it any better than how Councilor Vang put it. I too wish to honor Indigenous Peoples Day, and I really want to thank the event organizers. I see some folks in the audience who were there earlier today. Really appreciate the turnout, and it was so lovely to see the Indigenous Peoples celebration right outside the Capitol, and I was honored to briefly participate in that and all the goodwill generated by that. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the meeting.
Anyone else? No. Well, I do have a couple of things to share. I asked for a meeting last week, and I learned so much from the fire chief and our emergency management person, Joe Hutchison, and it's Hutchison, I think, Hutchins. Anyway, sat with them and learned about the CERT training that was starting up on Thursday evening. So I began that training, which I'm really grateful to have started. While at that training, I heard about the Oregon Emergency Management Safety Fair that was happening on Saturday. So I went to their facility and spent a few hours going around to all the booths. I got my little passport all filled out, and the CERT training guys said you can get credit if you go, so I'm looking forward to that. I think I kind of lean this way anyway, to be prepared for things. My car's always got stuff in it. I always snacks in my bag, you know, all that. Today, something kind of funny happened. And I went to Subway. And while at Subway, I could tell that the person behind the counter was overwhelmed, but he was really good at his job. And he was whipping out sandwiches, but he was having a problem with the toasting oven. And he turned around, and there were 11 of us waiting for sandwiches. And I happened to be the only woman in the room. I was number 4 in line. And he said, "Does anybody have a Phillips head screwdriver?" And nobody said anything. And I said, "Let me check my car." So I went to my car, and I had a Phillips head screwdriver so he could fix his oven. So further, the second guy in line said, "Well, I want to place an order for 21 sandwiches on Saturday." And then my restaurant hat kicked in, and I went over with a sticky pad and a pen, and I said, "Sir, what would you like to order for Saturday?" I took his order, and I left a note for Jared on the counter there. So we all do what we have to do when we have to do it. And I was grateful to be helpful at Subway today. I'm looking forward to what I'm going to learn in the CERT training. And is Chief Gerboth here? Chief, would you mind just speaking just a little bit to CERT training and when the next might happen? I brought brochures for all of my fellow counselors. Would you guys mind passing that down? You can keep one too. So can you, sir?
Good evening, Dave Gerboth, Fire Chief. Mayor, thank you for participating and responding to that emergency. I think maybe you're certified already. So, we just started our CERT class now. It is 6 weeks, so 1 day for 6 weeks. At the end of that will be about Thanksgiving, and so we're going to get through the holidays, and we'll begin again starting in calendar year 2026. And the Community Emergency Response Team is critical training for our communities, all the members of our neighborhoods, knowing that during large emergencies, large wildfires, earthquakes, flooding, that you may not have enough emergency services to get to you right away. This provides the basic level of training for community members to take care of each other, to secure utilities, to help prevent those catastrophic incidents during times of greater need where emergency services are going to be overwhelmed.
Would you mind also mentioning something called the Great Oregon Shakeout?
Yeah, so the Great Shakeout actually is done nationally, earthquake safety, 10/16, so October 16th, and it's done at 10 o'clock and 10:16 in the morning. So we'll be practicing all of the earthquake drills within the city. All of the departments in the city will be participating. They'll be doing accountability, checking for injuries, using those protocols to then notify emergency responders as they come in. Certainly, it's not just the city though. It'll be schools and other community members, but it happens nationwide. Oregon, though, with the Cascadia potential, this is certainly applicable and certainly encourage everybody to participate.
Great, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One thing I heard about in the CERT training was the importance of that go bag, being ready. Nobody wants to think about maybe it'll happen, but if it does, we want to be ready to be able to be helpful and not be part of the problem. So that's my goal. My dear mother gave each family in our family one of those tools for shutting your gas off and shutting your water main off for Christmas about 5 years ago. So that's going to go in my backpack. All right. Anything else anyone want to share? All right, then. We will move on to proclamations. Councilor Matthews. Up first with a proclamation for White Cane Safety Day.
Could I get John, GD, Terry, and Maria up here? Glad we had such a good turnout for White Cane Safety Day. This is great. Yeah, that's great. All right. Do I need to be by the mic, or am I okay with that? I do. I'll be up here. All right. So, whereas the City of Salem recognizes that everyone has the right to equality, opportunity, independence, and freedom, and whereas we also recognize that those in our community who are blind or otherwise disabled have the same rights as they pursue employment and full participation in the economic and social life, and whereas we understand that the white cane is not only a tool used by those who are blind to travel independently and safely, but is also a symbol of their rights as they pursue their goals. And whereas we recognize that these rights are protected through laws at our local, state, and federal levels through legislation known as the White Cane Law in an effort to prevent accidents, and whereas we urge motorists to act courteously and take proper precautions when encountering blind pedestrians on our streets and sidewalks. And now, therefore, I, Julie Hoy, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim October 15th, 2025 as White Cane Safety Day, and invite the community to use this occasion to reflect upon the significance of the white cane and to support employment and full integration of blind individuals into our city. Dated this 13th day of October 2025. There's a microphone right up here.
I just want to briefly review what Oregon's White Cane Safety Law entails. And honestly, I wish I could get $1 from all of you who don't know what this White Cane Law entails. White Cane Law basically in Oregon means that if a blind person, their white cane, their guide dog, wheelchair, anything attached to that blind person, once they have entered a roadway, whether it is a marked crosswalk or not, all motorists are to stay stopped until that blind person their dog, their cane, their wheelchair have left the roadway. And please remember that all roadways, corner to corner, whether it's a marked crosswalk or not, it is in Oregon, it's a legal crosswalk. Please watch out for our white canes. Be mindful of us because we try our best, but we can't see it coming. Thank you.
Could I please ask Nicole Yates to come forward? Nicole is the director of the Salem Housing Authority. Denise Bowles hoped to be here tonight but had something come up. She's the community relations liaison for Salem Health. Thank you for being here. Come on up with me. I'll read the proclamation if that's okay. All right. Whereas a community without abuse, violence, and suicide is a dream we all share, and whereas any form of mistreatment of another is abuse, and all people have the moral and legal right to live free of abuse and violence, whereas we recognize that respect for ourselves and others is key to developing healthy relationships at every age and in all circumstances, and whereas the principle of nonviolent resolution of conflict must be taught to our children and practiced within each of our families. And whereas verbal abuse, such as name-calling, insulting, and belittling, frequently escalate into simple force like pushing, grabbing, or slapping, with the worst scenario being escalation to rage, serious violence, and even murder. And whereas self-harm and suicide must be acknowledged as a serious public health crisis as numbers of victims continue to escalate in children, teens, and adults. And whereas, together with the communities around the country and overseas, recognize the Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting Project's Purple Hands Pledge as an effective tool in abuse, violence, and suicide prevention education. And now, therefore, I, Julie Hoy, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim October 19th to the 25th, 2025, as Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting Week, and encourage residents to join hands and hearts and unite as family and a community to pledge that I will not use my hands or my words for hurting myself or others. Dated this 13th day of October, 2025. Thank you. This is for you.
Good evening. I'm Nicole Yates. I'm the director of Salem Housing Authority. We are truly honored to be a part of the Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting project. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to gather here once again and witness this remarkable legacy that Ann Kelly and her team have built over the years. Ann, unfortunately, isn't here tonight, and she has asked me to speak on her behalf, as well as Denise Boyles. I also have comments from her. Their unwavering dedication has not only raised awareness about the importance of safe homes, schools, and communities, but it has also inspired many to take action. Through their efforts, they have fostered a sense of unity and support among individuals and organizations, advocating for policies and practices that ensure safety and well-being for all members of our communities. It is a privilege to celebrate this progress and contribute to a future where everyone can thrive in a secure environment. The Salem Housing Authority is firmly committed to its essential mission, which I proudly affirm: I will not use my hands or words for hurting myself or others. Our dedication lies in providing decent, safe, and affordable housing while nurturing vibrant and secure communities for all. Over the past 14 years, we have actively engaged with our employees, residents, the broader community, and sharing our mission through various impactful projects that uplift and empower those who we serve. Our efforts extend throughout Salem and Kaiser and Marion and Polk counties, where we strive to foster a culture of knowledge and support. This October, we will again light up Sequoia Crossings and Yaquina Halls, adding a warmth of inspiration to remind our neighborhoods of our pledge to end abuse and violence. Ann Kelly would also like that she always brings up the digital billboards that are around town with the Hands and Words for Not for Hurting logo on it. You can also see their beautiful digital billboards shining brightly here in Salem. The Purple Hands Pledge will be displayed in multiple locations all around our capital throughout the rest of this month. They are very grateful for all the generous donations that have helped make these billboards possible. In Anne's words, every day is a new day. We get to start all over again, and we can decide to make a better choice. Yesterday is gone. Here is something we can all do to help us choose not to hurt ourselves or others with our words, hands, or actions. We can make a promise, a pledge every day to help us all stop and think about what we say and do. No one likes to be hurt. No one deserves or asks to be hurt. No one makes you say or do anything to hurt someone. It's always a choice. It's not okay for anyone to hurt you. It's never okay to hurt yourself with words or actions. Asking for help is always a good and the right thing to do. Now, if everyone could please raise your right hand and recite the pledge with me. I will not use my hands or my words for hurting myself or others. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's try it one more time.
You want us to do this again?
No, I got it.
Okay, got it.
Let's do it one more time.
Okay.
So you want to give instructions?
Sure. So our communications team has put together for all of you a purple sheet with a note on it. This is something that we do with our staff every single year. We flow our boards in our office as a great reminder. It's a speaking point. Like I said, we turn Sequoia Crossings, which has beautiful trim lights on it, and Yaquina Hall. Those are speaking points for us to have tenants ask us why our lights are a certain color. We love the month of October. We get to talk about Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting and bring this up. We have posters throughout our different communities and little purple ribbons that you will see along our sites as a reminder. So I'm not sure if you want me to say Denise's comments from Salem Health or...
If you can, that'd be great. Thank you.
So Denise Boyles was unfortunately not able to make it. She is the Community Relations Liaison for Salem Health. And so she asked if I could please pass on her comments. Mayor, council members, Denise Boyles, who would be representing Salem Health and lending our support to this proclamation. Salem Health has a strong partnership with Hands and Words Are Not for Hurting project. From its inception to hosting a yearly pledge on our campus, their partnership and reminder that 14 words recited and lived can truly make a difference. As a health system, we are committed to nonviolence for our patients and our staff and our community. Healthcare workers are four times more likely to experience violence at work than any other industry. 44% of nurses reported experiencing physical violence and 68% reported experience verbal abuse during the COVID-19 pandemic. Workplace violence has severe consequences for the entire healthcare system. Not only does violence cause physical and psychological injury for healthcare workers, workplace violence and intimidation make it more difficult for nurses, doctors, and other clinical staff to provide quality patient care. In addition to increased safety measures at Salem Health this year, we are partnering with our community to work towards violence reduction outside of our hospital walls. Salem Health leadership and community is dedicated to the principle that our patients, visitors, staff, and community have a right to be safe. In a world that feels increasingly unsafe, we are thankful for this simple but powerful tool. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Somebody going to take a picture? Thank you. Did you? Thank you. All right. Councilor Tigan?
Thank you. In addition to the Great Shakeout, October 16th is also Imagine a Day Without Water, which is not planned, but I'd love to have city staff representing all divisions of the Salem's water system come up. I believe we have Shenandoah Ellis, the water program coordinator, Eric Steltzer, a water treatment plant operator, Jeremy Bible, a crew leader from water distribution, Chris Kohler, an instrumentation technician from Pumps and Controls, and Sophia Pizzetti, an engineering associate from engineering. These are the folks that keep our water system going every single day. Whereas Imagine a Day Without Water is a national day of action on October 16th, 2025, that invites people across the country to recognize the essential role of water in our lives and communities. And whereas more than 2 million Americans currently live without access to clean, safe, and affordable water, with communities of color, indigenous communities, and low-income neighborhoods continuing to face disproportionate challenges in accessing safe and reliable water services. And whereas the water infrastructure in Salem currently delivers safe and clean drinking water to 200,000 residential, commercial, and industrial customers every day, and whereas since 1937, the city of Salem has drawn pristine water from the North Santiam River and treated this water at its Guerin Island water treatment facility, and in 1 year, the Guerin Island water treatment facility will produce 10.6 billion gallons of safe drinking water. And whereas the city of Salem invested millions of dollars to protect and enhance the Guerin Island water treatment facility, and on July 28, 2025, the Salem City Council enacted a resolution declaring an emergency to address the potential risks relating to the upcoming deep drawdown of the Detroit Reservoir by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And whereas the city of Salem maintains 789 miles of water mains, the oldest of which was installed in the year 1887. And one of the main water transmission lines from Guerin Island is 89 years old, with an average age of all the pipes in the city of Salem's water system being 48.3 years old. And whereas Salem's water infrastructure is aging and in need of investment, and sustainable water and wastewater systems builds stronger communities by supporting economic growth, protecting our public health, and enhancing environmental resilience. And whereas by establishing reliable and resilient water infrastructure, we can make clean, safe water available for everyone in our communities today and for generations to come. And now, therefore, on behalf of Julie Hoy, Mayor of the City of Salem, we do proclaim October 16th, 2025 as Imagine a Day Without Water Day, and we encourage residents to affirm that water is essential to our community's quality of life, our economic strength, and health. Dated this 13th day of October, 2025.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, everyone. Okay, we're moving on to presentations. We have none. Public comment.
These are in person, and this will constitute remote.
Okay. Great. I will call two at a time. Is that okay? Two at a time. Please come forward to the podium. Make sure the button is pushed and the green light's on. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And I call James Alderson and Chris Hoy.
Thanks, Chris. My name is James Alderson. I live in Ward 2. I take the buses wherever I go, and a couple instances downtown where there's security. A woman said last winter that she has 5 pounds of explosives in her backpack, and she's got to detonate that and kill everybody. I notified the security about that, and they go, oh, it's not a security issue. Goodbye, don't call the police, because if you call the police, we'll get you expelled off the buses. Another time, 2 weeks ago, a man was making sexual comments towards me that was totally inappropriate. I notified security again. They said it's not a security issue. Don't call the police. So I am very frustrated with their lack of training or knowledgeable, saying that this is a security issue downtown. And every time they do a security issue, people are brushed off. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alderson, were these issues at the Transit Mall? Or?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
And on the sidewalk, too.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We have Chris Hoy and then TJ Sullivan.
Good evening. My name is Chris Hoy, and I'm a resident of Ward 6, and I'm a former mayor of Salem. Thank you, Councilor Vang, for being a wonderful advocate for East Salem. I feel a duty to be here tonight to speak mayor to mayor. You were elected to provide leadership. Instead of leadership, you have repeatedly claimed that you are learning and don't know how to do the job to which you were elected. That trope has been repeated by you for the past 35 months of your service on this council. You are the mayor of Oregon's second largest city and its state capital. Claiming ignorance has been and continues to be a disservice to the residents of Salem. During your time as a city councilor and now as mayor, you have repeatedly made choices contrary to your oath of office. You refused to recuse yourself when a clear conflict of interest existed. You did not accept responsibility for your behavior, and you refused to resign after you were censured by the council. You violated the city charter by attempting to divert city business to your friends. You claimed ignorance of the process and rules, and when I publicly called you out, you lied about even knowing the individuals. You attempted to manipulate the process during appointments to the Planning Commission. Councilor Varney called you out on it, and again, you did not take responsibility for your actions. As soon as you became mayor, you set a plan in motion to remove the city manager. In the course of those events, you led other members of this council to unwittingly become involved in a violation of Oregon's ethics laws. During this process, you lied to Councilor Tigan. You lied to Councilor Nishioka. You lied to Councilor Matthews. You lied to Councilor Gwynn. You lied to Councilor Brown. You lied to Councilor Nordyke. You lied to Councilor Varney. And you lied to the Ethics Commission about lying to Councilor Nishioka. The Oregon Government Ethics Commission has affirmed that you lied. Whether you lied is no longer disputable. When you took your oath, you swore to faithfully discharge the duties of your office. You have repeatedly failed to do so. Your colleagues can no longer trust you. They should censure you and hold a vote of no confidence tonight. The staff can no longer trust you. When police officers lie, they lose their license to be a police officer. When firefighters lie, they lose their license to be a firefighter. When 911 dispatchers lie, the same thing happens. You have lied, and the residents of Salem can no longer trust you. As a result, you have lost the privilege of being the mayor of this great city. You can no longer hold the office to which you were elected. You must do the one honorable thing you can do right now: resign. Resign immediately. The residents of Salem have a right to a mayor they can trust, and that's not you. Thank you.
TJ Sullivan and Ashish Fuki.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm here speaking on behalf of item 5D. I'm the board chair for Main Street. We are happy to partner with the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce to hopefully add a couple of HST officers into our downtown core. At some of our first listening sessions that we had between Main Street and the downtown, we heard from young women who work downtown who commented about the fact that they were accosted, intimidated, and harassed, in large part because of their gender and in large part because of their age. I think they were discouraged when they read comments by able-bodied men in our community who said, when I go downtown in the middle of the day, I feel perfectly safe. Well, that's nice, sunshine. They don't. But I think they're going to find encouragement from our city manager and our police chief, who heard them and decided that they wanted to help the situation by creating additional safety in our downtown. And it's not just for the patrons and our residents, it's also for the folks that find themselves unsheltered in our downtown. HST officers talk to them, they get to know them, and they provide additional support to them. They find out what's going on. If somebody's coming down and harassing the unsheltered population in our downtown, our HST officers will find out about it. Chief Womack has done a great job of instilling a sense of care and concern along with accountability to help folks who find themselves unsheltered. And it's my sincere desire that we will see an increased presence of officers in downtown. When we did a poll of residents in Salem, we found that the two main reasons that people do not come downtown to shop are they don't find it clean and they don't find it safe. So the two things that we can do to help bring more patrons into downtown Salem, make it clean, make it safe. This grant that we're hoping to give the city is going to go a long ways towards accomplishing one of those goals. And we thank the city manager and the police chief for listening and caring.
Thank you for your testimony.
You bet.
Ashish Pookie? Is
Puri.
it Pookie?
Ashish Puri.
I apologize.
That's
I couldn't
okay.
read that letter. And Jerry Jones.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Ashish Puri and I live in Ward 8. I'm a member of the Advisory Council to the Chief of Police for Salem Police Department. And I'm here to speak about item 5D concerning the Safety and Livability Strategic Action Plan, specifically about the HST, the Homeless Service Team. I've been a member of this council for roughly 2 years, and we meet monthly. And every time we meet, we're privileged to, learn more about the programs the police team runs. And, everything they share with us is about kindness, outreach, and consideration that this team brings to the city of Salem. That outreach and the effort to make a difference is very evident in how the HST team is run by Sergeant Weedman. He has a 2-member team that works 4 days a week, and they've spent almost 2,100 hours plus on actual work. They have done with over 700 incidents with the homeless population of Salem in helping them. And as the gentleman before me said, they make a difference. They know these people by name. And it's not just the 4 days that they spend on the job. They have extended their phone numbers and they know people by name. People know them and can connect with them and reach them at any time during the week. So they go above and beyond in their duty and work overtime. They work whatever time these folks need them. The homeless population is very vulnerable. Contrary to what most people think as them being the danger and the issue, more than 60% of the cases, the homeless population is the target. They are not the perpetrators of an issue or a crime, even though some of that comes from their circumstances that they face. So it's very important for us as the city or its stewards to serve this population. And I think the Salem Police Department is doing a great job. So extending that team, as the person before me said, from 2 to 4 people so that we have 7-day coverage is really appreciated. It's a great job that the police department is doing. I'm biased because I work with them, but I see all the good things that they do all the time. So I want to thank the police department, Chief Womack, and the whole team for what they're doing for us and for the homeless population of the city. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Jerry Jones.
Is this live? Okay, good. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Jerry Jones. I own Pikes Northwest Real Estate Services located here in Salem on Liberty Road. I was first here in June, again last month, and here I am again this month. I am hopeful for some of the changes that have been discussed. I'm hopeful for the actions of the Downtown Association, the Chamber of Commerce. I'm hopeful that we will see an increased police presence and that this won't be a temporary blip, but rather a sustainable move to increase the safety of downtown. I'm also hoping that we will see further action on the cleanup of downtown, the garbage, the trash, Wallace Marine Park, Northeast Salem. There continue to be areas where I wouldn't even call them homeless. I just call them vagrants. I think there's a distinction between the two. People who are consciously breaking the law, and they're not held to account. So I'm hopeful that with the increased police presence, there will be a more robust approach to enforcing the law, and that people will actually suffer consequences. They will be held account for their actions. I was contacted recently by a commercial property landowner in Northeast Salem. They own a retail strip on Lancaster. They have 24/7 audio and video security on their property. And in a matter of 2 or 3 hours on any given night or any given morning, what you see happen on that camera is not anything you would show. It's not appropriate to show publicly. It's disgusting. There's drug use, there's defecation, there's pissing everywhere. There's other acts that I won't even say in front of public. Police department has been called numerous times to the site, and no arrests are made. And if there are arrests made, you all know what happens next. They're back out on the street in a matter of hours or days. So I'm hopeful that the voice of downtown business owners and of citizens who are property taxpayers are heard. This property taxpayer, this landowner did tell me that he was supportive of the idea for property owners to withhold property taxes until such services are delivered by the city, and that people are held account for breaking the law, for trespassing, and for public indecency. So with that, I hope that we can see some level of peacefulness come back to downtown, and that it's a comfortable place once again for families to spend time any time of the day or in the evening hours and not feel threatened, not feel like they might see something they can't unsee that's disgusting, or that their kids might be witness to, or they themselves might be witness to. So I'd encourage the continued action from the council to restore order downtown and have a peaceful downtown. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. All right, we have one person signed up to testify online, Linnell Wilcox.
Looks like Linnell did not join us.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, then, we are moving on to the consent calendar. Councilor Nishioka?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. We have a motion and a second by Gwynn. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. Under the consent calendar, we have 3.1 minutes. 3.1A is the draft City Council minutes for September 17th, 2025. And we have the draft City Council minutes for September 22nd, 2025. That's 1.1B. Resolutions is 3.2A, to adopt Resolution 25.20-21, authorizing the city manager to apply for and, if successful, accept a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant from Oregon Parks and Recreation Department to provide funding for improvements to Fisher Road Park. Under action items 3.3A, authorize the creation of a mid-year park improvement project at Crooked House Playground resurfacing in the fiscal year 2026 Parks Bond Construction Fund number 255, funded with the 2022 Safety and Livability Bond proceeds. 3.3B, adopt resolution number 2025-23, authorizing a transfer of $25,000 in appropriations within the city's fiscal year 2026 budget to fund legal services required to join pending litigation. 3.3C, approve the recommended appointments to the Community Police Review Board. 3.3D, authorize the funds of one city councilor and one city staff member to attend the C40 Mayor's Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, November 3rd through 5th, 2025. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Seeing none, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Matthews.
Aye.
Councillor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councillor Brown.
Aye.
Councillor Vang.
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councillor Varney.
Aye.
Councillor Tigan.
Aye.
Councillor Nishioka.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. All right, then moving on, we have no public hearings. We're on to special orders of business. And who's going to? Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. 5.A. I move to approve an adjustment to the salary range for the city manager classification to $295,184 through $3,224,707 annually, effective October 13th, 2025.
Second. We have a motion and a second by Gwynn. Councilor, to your motion.
Thank you. The proposed budget reflects the current city manager salaries at the city's comparator cities, which are Beaverton, Bend, Eugene, Gresham, and Hillsborough. It also includes the current city recruitment for a city manager with a range of $238,000 to $319,000. The proposed range keeps Salem competitive within the market. It reflects the compensations necessary to attract and retain qualified candidates to serve as the chief administrative office for large organizations with over 1,300 employees and a total budget nearing $1 billion annually, including the capital budgets. So I think at this point, if there's any questions, they would be directed to Dan, or our city attorney, I should say.
Does anyone have questions? Seeing none, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councillor Brown.
Aye.
Councillor Vang.
Aye.
Councillor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councillor Varney.
Aye.
Councillor Tigan.
Aye.
Councillor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councillor Matthews.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. All right, on to item 5B. Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you again. Item 5B. I move that the City Council appoint Krishna Namburi as our city manager, subject to the approval and execution of an employment agreement by council, and direct city attorney to prepare employment agreement for councilors' consideration.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Nordyke. Councilor, to the motion.
Thank you again. And yes, I think we were all resounding wanting to give that second, so thank you. Krishna has displayed strong leadership in the city in her current role as interim city manager, and over the years as a deputy city manager, enterprise services director, and information technology director. As indicated by the performance evaluation, the recent performance evaluation, Krishna has a strong support from the city council, city staff, and from the city labor unions. Stability and momentum, she has provided stability for the public, for the council, and staff since February, and it is important that we continue that momentum by appointing her as city manager. Proven leadership. Since February, Krishna has successfully navigated the city through one of the most challenging budget cycles the city has faced in years, and a successful local option levy, maintaining library services while extending operating hours and supporting Parks and Center 50+. Fiscal stewardship. Krishna has implemented cost-saving measures internally, saving the city money while providing clear messages to the community that the city has carefully managed its resources. Krishna also worked collaboratively with community members to make the city's financials transparent, clear, helping dispel concerns of insufficiencies and waste in our city operations. Operational excellence. Krishna has not merely served as caretaker during this interim period. She has worked to address operational needs within the organizations, within existing resources, by collaborating with her leadership team to address council's goals and community needs effectively and efficiently. Community trust. As evidenced by the community's passage of the local option levy, Krishna has contributed to the restoration of residents' trust in the city through transparent and direct communication with community members and being accountable for the city's performance. Delivery on council priorities by gardening community support for cities, for the city needs, and providing innovative approaches for council's goals and objectives. Krishna has effectively brought the city closer to achieving success on council priorities while ensuring that all members of council are treated fairly and equally through the process. Appointment is the best interest for the community. Krishna is eminently qualified for the position as performed at a high level in her prior roles and as interim city manager. The city is unlikely, and I'm going to repeat that, the city is unlikely to find a better candidate through a costly and cost-consuming public recruitment, and certainly one who combines her talent, innovation, and decades of experience with the city. Council should take action now to appoint Ms. Namburi as our city manager and allow Council, Krishna, and the community to continue the work towards a better Salem. I'm glad I got through that without crying. If Council adopts this motion, the city attorney will meet with Krishna to discuss potential terms of the employment agreement and then meet with Council to execute session to review a draft agreement and discuss terms. Once Council and Krishna have tentative understanding of the terms, the employment agreement will be presented to Council at an upcoming Council meeting for consideration and approval. Oregon Public Meetings Law does not permit a governing body to discuss salary by considering the employment of a chief executive in executive session. To address this issue, Human Resources staff has previously conducted a market review of the city manager's position and will make a recommendation that the council adopt a salary range, and we just did that in the previous motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Nishioka. So we have a motion and a second. Does anyone want to add anything further? Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well said, Council President Nishioka. I will make my remarks a lot shorter. Krishna Namburi's work ethic is beyond reproach. Extremely hardworking woman, 16 hours a day is not uncommon. She gives her heart and soul to the city of Salem, and I cannot imagine anyone else becoming our city manager. She worked behind the scenes to help build the coalition to support our livability levy. And as you know, without that levy, we were going to have to lay off a lot of city employees and have long-term budget cuts in the future fiscal years. She helped the city earn the endorsement of the Chamber of Commerce, our police employees union, and our firefighters union for that levy. And that is a testament to her ability to work behind the scenes and to build trust with a variety of stakeholders. And I also really appreciated that when she immediately took the reins as our interim city manager, and what a rough transition that was, she immediately instituted cost savings mechanisms to help steer our ship. And she has just been nothing short of extraordinary. So I will be very pleased to cast my vote in favor. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, I guess, have a couple of questions to maybe the city attorney about the city manager role. So I was not on council when we were recruiting for our previous city manager. Can you kind of explain what does the recruitment process look like, the timeline, and what would be Ms. Namburi's role in this potential recruitment process?
Thank you, Dan Atchison, City Attorney. There is a council policy that speaks to it a little bit, but typically what we've done is use a headhunting firm or a consultant to do a nationwide search. The council would review the criteria for the city manager and the classification, and would also review and approve the recruitment materials and the budget for that. Typical process takes a few months. There's different ways to do it within that. The firm would usually do an initial review of the applications and then forward on qualified applications to council for its consideration. There's typically a community input process as part of that, as well as discussions with city employees, city labor unions. In recruitments past, members of council have gone to visit the jurisdictions where the finalists hail from to talk to staff and talk to the community members. Timeline really varies, depends on what kind of recruitment you have, but it's usually, I would say, 3 months to do it properly. Did I answer the questions?
It did, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Matthews.
I mean, I think probably the easiest thing is just to say ditto to every other comment that's already been said, because anything I say won't necessarily be new to that. You know, I'll tell you, when we first knew that we were going to have to recruit for a city manager or do something in that arena, my initial response was, we'll just send it out to public, right? We'll just send it out for the normal recruitment process. But over the time of working with Krishna over the last few months, it just became so clear and apparent that we would be fools not to take that opportunity to hire her to this spot, because it would be, in my opinion, almost impossible to get someone that was as knowledgeable, as productive as she is, and as committed to the city as she is. And so, so I'm happy to give my vote in support as well.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. This is more of a comment than a question, and I echo Councilor Nordyke and Councilor Matthews' sentiments about Ms. Namburi, and I've actually had the pleasure of seeing her out in the community to build these relationships, build this trust with our residents, especially in Northeast Salem, who feel very much left out of the public process. And it was really critical for her to go out there and build that trust and get the message out that our libraries, our park, and our Center 50 Plus provide critical services. And so back in March, when council brought a motion to appoint Ms. Namburi as interim city manager, I came as a resident to council to make public comment, voicing my support in her appointment, noting her dedication to the city, especially her 20-plus year career here. To me, that is a sign of dedication and care for a place that she clearly loves. And so since entering my role as city councilor, I have been able to actually work with Ms. Namburi and see that her leadership is clear and transparent, and that Ms. Namburi leads with genuine authenticity and clearly cares for the city. And in the time I've come to know Council President Nishioka, I know that when she brings a motion to council, It is a motion that she had put a lot of thought into, a lot of care into, and has researched extensively. And so thank you, City Attorney, for answering my questions about the recruitment process, but I am happy to vote yes on this motion to appoint Ms. Namburi as our city manager. So thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Tigan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too will be voting yes on this motion. You know, I think one of the things the public is coming to understand about me as a counselor, and maybe I'm coming to understand about myself as a counselor in the 9 months or so that we've been doing this, is really wanting to address the things that are right in front of us. And as others have said, Krishna has demonstrated an incredible capacity for leading in a very challenging yet exciting time for the city from a day-to-day perspective. But I think one of the things that I'm really interested by the time I get to the end of my term on city council is that we've set our city on a strategic course for long-term health and sustainability. And I think as a council and as a community, we've only really started to crack the egg of possibility that Krishna has to lead this organization from a long-term strategic mindset and a positive growth mentality. And one of the things that I'm most excited to vote yes about for this is to really give her and her leadership team and this council the stability it needs to be able to make those types of decisions into the future. And I'm really hoping that through this motion and the negotiations to bring her on full-time in this position, we can really set that course. So looking very much to excited to vote yes here.
Anyone else? Yeah, Councilor Varney.
Thank you. I appreciate what everyone has said. Yeah, Krishna, boy, her stepping into this post, just suddenly I was really amazed at just her confidence and her courage, and she trusts her instincts, and she has really, really good instincts. And she knows the staff, she knows the city, and she makes really, really good decisions. And she's respected not only by the community, but all of us on council, the leadership team, and staff members. And we're very lucky to have her. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gwynn?
So I too will be supporting the motion. And the one thing that I would echo everything that everyone else said, but Krishna's decisions are always data-driven. So while we can always be emotional about things, and some of us are more emotional than others, her decisions are always data-driven, and they always are very common sense, and they are what's best for the city. So I'm excited to vote yes.
Well, I'm excited to ask for this vote. And I will be voting yes also. Salem is in great hands with Krishna in this position. So if nothing further, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Very grateful, and aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. So would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, you assume
That's
right.
the motion did pass. Good job.
Well, good evening. We had kind of a long week as a family, so I haven't had much time to really think about what I was going to say. So at 5:45, I started kind of scribbling something, but I wanted to say, like, this is probably my only opportunity to acknowledge people in my life and my family. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to do that, if that's okay. Many people's sacrifices shaped my path. My mom and dad and family back in India. My parents gave me the freedom to explore any career I wanted. But 30 years ago, their dream was for me to be a city manager in India. And I did not want to do that. So the joke in our family is I'm just kind of 30 years behind. But I'm pretty sure my mom and dad are very proud, and especially my dad. This is kind of what he wanted me to do. And I think I'm kind of a little bit delayed in how I process. So it took me 30 years to kind of finally come to a conclusion that I can do this. So, I also want to kind of take like two people, especially the reason why I decided to work for the city and do what I'm doing. My lovely husband, Raghu, is sitting over there. You guys just kind of embarrassed me by attending this one, but whatever. So my husband, 25 years ago, convinced me to quit my private sector job with Pricewaterhouse, and he wanted me to kind of work for the city, and he said just a couple of years. And he wanted me to take a break because I was traveling back and forth. And I ended up doing that, and there was supposed to be a 2-year deal. I told him it was going to be a 2-year deal, but that became 25 years, and I'm still here. So Raghu has been a pillar of support for me over the years, and I know this, and I want to acknowledge it. It takes a lot of patience to put up with me and my schedule, and he has a lot of patience. And then the second person is my dear friend, Rama. So when the boys were 2 and 1, I was actually thinking of leaving the city, and I wanted to start my own IT company or stay home or whatever. So my friend Rama called me and said, why don't I help you with the boys and you do your thing? And so I kind of ended up staying with the city. Without her, I probably would not have been, without her, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I just want to kind of acknowledge her on that. Both my boys, Anish and Nikhil, are here. They did not make a trip to come and see this. They came for something different, and they ended up being here, and so they showed up. They're my support and strength, and I know I talk about them a lot, not necessarily sometimes in a good way. Keep complaining about how many times they show up, and I'm like, I'm busy, don't come home that often. So they also gave me a hard time, I just have to say. They make fun of my accent, and they also gave me the best tips on how to take advantage of my accent sometimes. And I have done that. I'll share those stories later. But my friends, I know, but the biggest complaint is I don't return their calls or text them back. And I'm promising them I'm working on it. I'm work in progress. Hopefully I'll be there. But a lot of friends have been there for us. When it comes to my professional life, Salem became like a second family to me, city of Salem. I've been here for like close to 26 years. I came to the city as a consultant, so it's more than 26 years. And I have an outstanding leadership team. And I don't want to name everyone here. I know I see some of them. Dan Atchison is sitting here. And the city manager's office, and I see Tammy Carpenter over there. Aaron Graham, who worked with me before. I just have like incredible team that I work with, and it's kind of my privilege to work with them. And every day it's like, and the product that you see here, often it is misunderstood that it is the city manager's product, and it's not. It's a staff's product, right? So I feel very privileged that I get to work with each of them every day. The other piece, like I see my past life, family here from the enterprise services. Over the past 25 years, I was so lucky to work with these exceptional team members, and I also one of the pieces that I really enjoy when I'm working with these team members is they're not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. I'm looking at Vlad there, and often it's like, no, that's not the right direction. I feel honored that they feel comfortable to come and tell me to go in the right direction. So the City of Salem employees, we do have, and I know you kind of experience that every day, we have some incredible talent in the city. And that's not common for an organization of this size, so I feel very proud about that. The other piece that I wanted to touch is public service is rewarding, but it is also very challenging. And as I was I actually had real reservations to step into this role because I'm not a public person and I like to keep my life private. And then every action kind of sits in that public eye, and rightfully so, and but that's a difficult place to be in. Then I get to kind of see all of you as a council. You do that every day. I did learn a lot over the past 8 months because you show up every day and wanting to do the right thing for the community. Sometimes it is difficult things. And we talked about the opinions, the perceptions, but you show up with that courage. And so you help me to have that, that strong, thank you for showing that strong leadership, each of you. So I kind of learned a lot from that. And then the other piece of it is working through these difficult challenges over the past 8 months, the best part of what I enjoyed the most was connecting with the community. I think sometimes I'm kind of going home with some stuff and my husband is like, why are you bringing these cards and the cookies? And I'm like, so I really enjoyed connecting with the community. And that's probably the best part. And as I'm kind of working with each of you, I get to kind of see your passion for Salem, which is kind of an amazing thing for me to witness in one-on-ones. And the community is really fortunate to have this council, and I just have to say that because I'm talking about my experience as a city manager. And I feel privileged to walk that path with you. And I know there's a lot more work to do. And finally, what I kind of wanted to leave with, of all this thing, this is the only piece that I kind of took some time to write, so I'm going to read that. I was thinking about what is the hope for, my hope for Salem. My hope for Salem is a future built on a shared purpose. And that's something that we have been working on, and how to be united with that common goal. So a future that is built on a shared purpose, and that future where we can work together and also in support of each other. I think that is important. And this is, and also leave a better community for future generations. And I think each of us owe that to Salem. I think we owe that to the next generations. So Salem deserves nothing less than our very best. And the best is found in each of us. I always kind of think about it, but also in our ability to unite on a shared purpose. I think that's something that we have to look at. So I look forward to working with all of you and to make that future a reality. And it is truly an honor to serve Salem. So thank you so much. And I don't know what you guys said, but I'm assuming that some good stuff, that I'll listen to that later. But thank you. Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute recess so we can take some photos, and then we'll be back. We're adjourned for the moment. All right, we'll call this meeting back to order. We've got Courtney Knox-Bush. Would you please come forward for item 5C?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Courtney Knox-Bush, your Chief Strategy Officer this evening. Today, I am pleased to bring you the results of the Community Satisfaction Survey from September of 25 this year. I'm not going to do all the talking. We have the experts here, John Horvick from DHM. But I do want to make sure to share with you the two things that I'm most excited about when we look at the survey. The first thing I want to share is that this is the beginning of your strategic plan, your update of the strategic plan. You will be talking about that in November at the next work session. And so this is a really unique opportunity to learn from community sense of priorities, satisfaction with city services as you consider the future for the city. And the second thing that I'm really excited about is that we have a great set of data on public perceptions of community safety. And that's a really neat way to start a project. As we're considering later this evening, we'll be talking more about some of the budget adjustments you may choose to make for safety and livability. And so we have a really solid foundation of public perceptions, which is one piece of data we'll consider after we do some of the interventions. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Senior Vice President John Horvick of DHM Research. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Mayor, City Council, John Horvick, DHM Research. A pleasure to be back. Some of you may know me, seen me before. Some of it might be the first time you've seen me. But DHM Research is an independent, nonpartisan public opinion and policy firm. That means some different things, but I like to say that our job is to ask people what sort of communities they want to live in. We get an opportunity to work with communities all across Oregon, the Pacific Northwest, and have survey research like we're going to talk about today. I also spend a lot of my time traveling the state and speaking to the residents of Salem at focus groups, one-on-one, face-to-face, where we get to have in-depth conversations about what's going on, what they value, what they're concerned about, what they want to see maintained and changed. This is a survey research project where we've had the privilege of working with the city of Salem and talking to residents in the community for a number of years. The data we're going to talk about today actually goes back to 2017. One of the great things about that consistent, regular check-in is that we can see how things change or where they stay the same. And because DHM does lots of research in lots of other communities, I'll try to share where I can, maybe how things compare to some other places that we've been to. So I'm going to walk through these data. There's a fair amount. I'm going to try to be concise, but if I am being too brief, please let me know, and I'll try to answer your questions. Also, my colleague Phoebe Wagner here is with me. We work together on this project. She has 200 and some pages of crosstabs, so if there's a very specific question we need to look at, she's here to help me with that as well. So what's the research purpose? What were we trying to do? I wanted to assess resident satisfaction with city services and communications. So in a general sense, and then very specifically about all the different things that the city provides. We asked about the opinions about the value of distribution of city resources, gauge residents' sense of safety, as Courtney was just talking about, as well as livability. I'll talk about both of those and the differences. And then, like I said, we're going to track some changes over time. The city of Salem is very consistent about the questions it's been asking. We made some tweaks and changes over the years, but again, that value of consistency is to be able to track how things change over time. How do we do it? So this, first of all, it's a survey of 400 people. It's not everybody in the community, but we work really hard for it to be representative of the community. And we do that through a variety of different ways. One is we try to reach people both traditional live interview phone calls where that phone rings, and if they want to pick it up and talk to somebody and answer the questions that way, they have an opportunity to do that. And some people, that's what their preference is. But it's not everybody's preferences, and so we also reach people by text message, and it's a message with a link. And that link takes them to a survey that they can take online. Most everybody will do that on their smartphone, but if they wanted to, they could kick it to their laptop or tablet if that's what their preference was. Because a lot of people don't want to pick up the phone when a stranger calls and wants to be able to do things on their own time and do it digitally. And so one way we try to get representative is we reach people through multiple means. Another way is that the survey is provided in multiple languages. It's available in English as well as Spanish. This year, there are 6% of the completes were completed in Spanish, which is the highest that we've completed so far for Salem. That's ticked up a little bit over the years. And then the third way is that whenever you do a survey, really whenever you do research of any type, even if you try to contact people at random, which is what we try to do, people participate at different rates. People with more education tend to participate in research more readily than those with less education. Women tend to participate more than men. People with homes, who own homes, tend to participate more than renters. So whenever we're doing a survey like this, where it's really important that we're hearing from a representative group of people, we always set quotas so that we ensure that once those people who are easier to reach, we kind of fill up those buckets. Then the extra efforts we put into is to ensure we're reaching those communities we haven't heard from yet. That helps us ensure that the results we get back have the right percentage of men and women and older and younger and West Salem and South Salem and all the different criteria that are important. This survey has a margin of error of 4.9%, and as we go through the survey, if things don't add up to 100%, sometimes that's going to be due to rounding. Okay. All right, let's get to the numbers, the data, or I'll talk about some. So this is where you, in the presentation, where you tell people what you're going to say, then you're showing them again. So this is what we're going to talk about. So residents are mostly satisfied with city services as a whole. So when we ask people in a big picture, are you satisfied or not? Most people are satisfied, but there's some pretty big differences by city services, and there's particularly a difference between when we talk about satisfaction with services and the value of services when you factor in the taxes you're paying for them as well. Talk about those differences. We'll also talk about where people feel like services, or where parts of town are feeling like they're getting their fair share or not. Residents tend to believe that their part of town is getting their fair share of services. We'll talk a little bit about the library. So a couple of questions in the survey about how to allocate those library funds from the levy. For example, expanding hours or dedicated programs to particular communities. And in a preview, it's pretty evenly split. And then we're going to talk a bit about how interacting with the city in a variety of different ways has improved in some respects, but there's lots of ways where it's still difficult. And then we did a little bit on communications this time and how people are contacting the city, interacting with the city. Social media, as you're going to see, is an important element of the communications. On safety and livability, we're going to see that most residents do feel safe during the day, but there are some concerns at night. And, you know, that's not surprising. That's sort of human nature. It's also not unique to Salem, but we're going to be able to show those differences day and night, but also those differences day and night by different parts of the community. Is similarly with livability, and livability is a more general concept. Just safety includes things like ease of getting around, affordability, access to quality services, things of that nature. And there's just a little bit about downtown too, including how many people are visiting downtown, and about 9 out of 10 Salem residents had visited downtown in the last month, and we'll show you those numbers as well. So that's what's coming. Now I'll get into the charts and graphs. So community mood. When we start surveys like this, for you and for other communities, we'll often start with the kind of classic question. Are things heading in the right direction, or are they off on the wrong track? So we've been asking this question for Salem since 2017. The wrong track number there is in orange. The right direction there is sort of that bluish green color. In 2025, 23% of Salem residents said the city's headed in the right direction. 54%, I believe that 59% say the wrong track. For context, the general shape of these lines mirrors what we've seen in other communities and mirrors what we've seen statewide, where pre-COVID, things were more positive. Things eroded in 2018, 2019, largely due to concerns about homelessness, cost of living, but homelessness in particular. Of course, COVID happened. Salem, as well as other parts of the state, have struggled to bounce back to those pre-2019 levels. If we look at the state, DHM does lots of surveys where we ask about how the state is doing. in 2025, across all the surveys we've done of Oregonians about Oregon, 35% have said that the state's headed in the right direction. It is a bit unusual for local community to be at a number lower than the state. People tend to feel better about something that's close to them than something that's further away from them. Okay? Why the struggle? Oh, excuse me, we'll get to that in a second. But through feedback from council for presentations in the past, when the questions have been, well, if people aren't feeling good about Salem, if we think we're heading in the right direction, well, is that mainly because of things that we're in control of? Is it things that are outside the city's control that's sort of influencing opinions about Salem, or some combination of both? Well, we have been asking, again, in this survey. So if you look at the people who said the city's heading in the right direction, 76%, that's that big blue portion of that column. So it's a combination of both the things that the city's doing and things sort of beyond the city, things that are outside the city's control. If we look at people who say wrong track, the city's heading the wrong track, it's 65%. So it's a combination of both. There's some challenges maybe in the city, but there's also some big global things that are happening that influence how I think about things. So a clear majority say combination of both city and things outside the city's control. However, if you look at like the green, mostly because of actions the city has taken, versus the yellow, mainly because of circumstances beyond the city's control, that green's a lot bigger than the yellow, right? So there is a sort of, if people are going to lean one way, it's going to be lean more towards things that are in the city's control. The things, we did not ask a follow-up question specifically about this, but we do ask a question, an open-ended question. What's the most important problem facing the city? And here people can say anything that they want. We read all their comments, we listen to everything they have to say, and we try to put them into categories that are meaningful. Also categories that have been consistent across time. And you can see where we're at right now. This year, 43% of Salem residents said the most important problem facing the city is homelessness. And then public safety, number 2 there at 19%. And then there's a combination of a lot of different issues behind that. Affordable housing, which is of course related to homelessness, but also a distinct issue. Promoting businesses in downtown, budgeting, roads, potholes, high taxes, on and on. When I show open-ended responses like this to a question like this, and I've done it a lot in a lot of communities, anytime something gets above 20%, you get 1 out of 5 people open-ended, can say anything they want. If they're naming the same thing, that's a pretty big deal. You know, so Salem has been well above 20% on homelessness for a while. So it definitely crosses that threshold. So that is, of course, a concern. The other thing is just to notice the trend. In 2021, 2022, 57% said homelessness, and now it's down to 43%. So it's both the level and the rate. The level is sort of well above that 20% threshold, but the rate is declining from previous years. You can see public safety is on the increase a bit from sort of pre-COVID. The thing to notice about this is that if homelessness comes down, by the nature of this question, something or some things else have to come up, right? So if you're not saying homelessness, you are saying something else. So there's always going to be sort of a dynamic. Something always has to end up on top. But right now, it continues to be homelessness, but not to the extent that it was a few years ago. So satisfaction with city services. First, we asked people in a general sense. Like all things considered, you know, think of fire and police and transportation. How satisfied are you with city services? Again, this is on a scale from very satisfied to not at all satisfied. We're showing the satisfied side of the scale here. This is a question that's been asked over the years. And you can see in 2020, 86% said that they were satisfied. In 2021, it was 70. 2022, 57. So it was on a downward trend. You know, that corresponds with those concerns about homelessness rising. Of course, it could be other things, but COVID was happening. There's lots of things going on at that period. So then we're at 68% this year. So 68% is below 86, below where it was in 2020. It's a tick below to where it was in 2021. But, you know, it's a pretty decent-sized increase from the last time we measured in 2022. So about 2/3 of folks, when we think of like city services, big picture in general, satisfied. which is an 11 percentage point increase from the last time we asked in 2022. In this deck, we're going to call out some differences by some categories, including area of the city, as well as age and income and some other things as well. Things that we thought were relevant to the question, or the differences were large enough where we thought it was important to show. Here, just satisfaction with city services, 68%, same number on the previous slide. And then if we look at the kind of the three areas of the city, the way we've been dividing it up, looking at west, kind of north, northeast, and south, not much difference between the areas of the city. When you think of city services globally, pretty similar across the areas of the city. All right, so that's city service in a big picture sense, but then of course we wanted to know the specifics. So here, I'm just quickly, here are all the city services we asked about. It's on 2 slides, so you can just sort of see, whoops, I'm gonna skip forward one more. So you see all these different, I think there's 15 different services. Start with here. They're ordered from a level of satisfaction. So if we think of like, what are people most satisfied with? Fire, ambulance, and 911 services. What is that? 78% satisfied, 39% very, 39% somewhat satisfied. That's what those green bars represent. Street lighting, water, sewer, and stormwater services, parks and recreation, and here, where we are right now, the Salem Public Library. So those rise to the top. I'm not going to have time to talk about every single service that we asked about, but those are the ones that were at the very top. We did want to call out, because of their importance, public safety, so law enforcement, public safety, as well as city streets, maintenance of city streets. So in public, and these are just by areas of the city. So west, north, northeast, and south, it ranges from 37% to 41% for satisfaction with public safety, so really not a meaningful difference there. Nor is there much of a difference on maintenance of city streets. That's on the right, by the areas of the city. Where you see differences, I'll try to call them out. The differences here are not statistically significant. By that I mean, these are the sorts of differences you would expect just by random chance. So these I sort of interpret as very, very similar. So here are the other city services we asked about. Again, I don't have time to talk about every single one, but we wanted to highlight the ones that folks are most dissatisfied with. So if we start at the bottom, ensuring that residents of all income levels have access to affordable housing. What is that? 74% are not satisfied, including 48% that are not at all satisfied. That matches that open-ended question, what's people's the most important problem based in the city is homelessness, and here people are telling us that this is a challenge that we're struggling to meet. Growing job opportunities in local economy, a majority are not satisfied there. And city planning and development review, again, 50% are not satisfied with that either. I'm going to show just some trend lines. This isn't every city services, but these are some of the core ones that we thought were worth calling out over time. So this is the level of satisfaction, either very or somewhat satisfied for fire, parks and rec, library, police, and job opportunities. The reason police doesn't go back as far is because the language for that has changed a little bit over the years, so it only goes back here to 2021. The things that are important for me in this chart, and what I want to call out to you, is that if we go back to 2017 to 2025, in general, there's a little bit of an erosion for most services from 2017 to 2025. That's important. Also important for most of these city services, that erosion stopped in 2022, and we see a little bit of a bounce back in 2025. With the exception of job opportunities. We have to look at these in the context of what people were asked. They were asked about their satisfaction with job opportunities here in Salem. The economy, though, is much bigger than Salem. It's much bigger than Oregon. It's national, it's international. And I can just tell you from all the research we've been doing here in Oregon, but also the research that other folks are doing nationally, confidence in the economy, sentiment about the economy has just turned more negative. It's particularly turned more negative among communities and states that have more Democrats and Republicans. This very partisan sort of lens that people sort of view that as. But it shows up here, right? That's the one we see the most erosion and no sort of kind of pushback from 2022. So the value of city service, that's satisfaction. With the value of city services, the question's somewhat different. The question was, the City of Salem funds basic services with taxpayer dollars and fees for services in general. Excuse me. The City of Salem funds basic services with taxpayer dollars and fees for services, period. In general, how satisfied are you with the value received for taxes and fees paid? So this isn't just about the quality of the service delivered. This is in the context of the service delivered for what you pay. And here that satisfaction falls, right? 38% satisfied, 57% not satisfied. I don't have a one-to-one comparison that I can point you to for other work we do. This is a question that's asked a little bit different in different communities, but I'll say in general, people are more satisfied with the service than they are with the service considering the taxes that they pay. It's sort of natural, but it shows up here, and it's one we'll want to continue to keep an eye on. Again, if we look at some key differences, if we look at by area of the city, that west, north, northeast, and south, some minor differences. I will tell you that these differences are not statistically significant. They might be meaningful, they matter, but just we could see these sorts of differences by area by random chance. The differences we see by income levels, though, those are not by random chance. Those are real. They're big. So 26% of those making less than 50K are satisfied with their services considering the taxes and the fees that they're paying, versus a majority, 57%, who are making over 150K. So there is a big income difference in how people are experiencing this. And we thought that that was important to call out here. Looking at values of services across time, again, it sort of follows, this is the same question, just tracked back to 2017. It follows that sort of same general pattern we saw with that right direction, wrong track. Where you go back before 2020, people were tended to be more satisfied. And then we see a fall off. There was erosion before 2020, so it was 68, 70% in 2017, 2018, then 56, 57. So there was a bit of a drop off there. But then when you get to COVID, 2021, 40, 2022, 30. But this is sort of the consistent theme in these results too. 2025 is not back to the levels that we'd like to see, but they're also generally moved up from they were in 2022, the last time we measured. So this is that half glass full, half glass empty sort of result. The survey also asked about ease of activities, so not just like, are you satisfied with the service, but like how easy it is for you to get important things done, including doing business with the city, that's at the top, walking or biking in the city, finding information about planning, finding information you need to resolve a city issue, driving from one side of the city to another, having your concerns heard by city leaders, and operating a business. So that at the top, nothing touches 50% on the easy side, but at the top is doing business with the city, such as getting a permit or paying a bill, and walking and biking in Salem. We'll call out that one as if you look down the list a little bit to driving from one side of the city to the other, that's the third from the bottom. There's a pretty big delta between the two. So people are having some challenges. If we look again, the driving across the city, what is it, 71% say it's difficult. So there's some challenges out there. Again, this is one that we have been tracking. And again, you see this general trend where if you go, we don't have a 2017 number for this, but if you look at the 2018 at the left here, things tended to be more positive, a little bit easier if we go further back in time. Then there was that sort of fall off kind of around 2020 for things that I imagine were specific to the things that were asked about in the survey, but also probably general to negative sentiment about just the way that the world was going. But then also between 2022 and 2025, things either have leveled out or bounced back a little bit. And again, that's sort of the theme in this survey. We're not back to where things were, but also there is signs of improvement. So you can see the kind of the two bigger areas of improvement, relatively speaking. We're finding information about the city and driving across the city during peak hours. Just some demos on a few of these. One, these are the two transportation-related issues, sort of looking at the results and considering the issues, sort of broke these out by area, by gender, and by age. If it's colored, if it's that yellow color, that means the difference is statistically significant. It's big enough that we wouldn't expect it just by random chance alone. So if you look at walking or driving across the city by area, we don't really see much difference. So folks in one part of the city didn't answer the question differently than another part of the city. Same with gender. We were interested in that particularly with walking and biking, but we didn't see a difference there. With age, a little bit. Those who are younger were somewhat less likely to say that it's easy to walk or bike across the city than those who are older. I don't have a great theory for why that is. Maybe they're doing it more. Maybe their experiences are different, but it's there. So 42% of those who are 18-34 said it was easy, compared to 56% of those who are older. And that difference is outside the margin of error, as we say. If you look at some of these other ones, doing business with the city, finding information about planning, finding information about how to resolve my eyes, I need glasses, guys. How to resolve a city issue and have any concerns heard about the city. Again, just at some of these same demos, I won't go through all these numbers, but if you look at just so the top one, for example, doing business with the city, such as getting a permit, paying a bill, women thought that was somewhat easier than men, younger people somewhat more than those who are older than 55 plus. If you have questions about these, I'd say, or need more time, I'd say take a look at the report, spend some time with it. But where the yellow highlights are, that's where that difference, again, is statistically significant, not just by random chance. So library levy priorities, we understand that one of sort of the conversations that's been happening here in the city is how to best use to allocate those dollars, use those dollars. And the world's more complicated, I understand, than the choice that we gave people, but we wanted to give you some sense of where the community kind of leaned. So the two choices we provided, again, understanding that they're not the only two choices that might be out there. But one was expand hours the library is open, such as more weeknight and weekend hours. That was one choice of how to use the library funds. And the other choice was expand the library programs, such as programs for children, seniors, and multilingual members of the community. In good or bad, there's not much of a difference here. This is one where the community isn't providing an especially clear signal about what their preference is. But if you had to choose, right, there is some lean towards expanding hours. So the idea here is expanding hours. It's a more general use of the funds, whereas it's more specific for specific programs, particular types of groups of people. If you do look at some demos that may be relevant here, if we look at by, say, geography, again, we're looking for where those yellow highlights are. That's where differences are large enough to say that they're not by chance. There's no differences on these preferences by area of the city. That's on the sort of the left side. If we look at race, we thought that race might be one, considering some of the programs we highlighted. There were no differences by race. There is a somewhat difference by age. Our younger residents were relatively more leaned towards expanding programs, where older residents leaned a little bit more towards expanding hours. Okay, so differences did exist there. So safety and livability. So with safety, we're going to talk a little bit about downtown. So one of the questions we asked in the survey is, in the last month, how many times did you visit downtown? Including 0 as an option. So if we look at anybody who didn't say 0, something bigger than 0, at least once, 86% of Salem residents said they had visited downtown at least once in the last 30 days. That's important context, because when they're answering questions about downtown, know that the vast majority of people are answering those questions with the context of at least visiting it last month. Okay. This is much greater than, say, if you ask Portlanders or people in the Portland metro region about visiting downtown Portland. At least twice as much, probably more. I can't remember the percentage the last time we asked, but somewhere around 40% had visited in the last month. So, safety. We're going to ask about safety in different parts of the city at night and during the day. First, I'll show you the numbers in downtown Salem. So downtown Salem, the scale here is from very safe to very unsafe. Downtown Salem during the day, 69% say they feel safe. Downtown Salem at night, it drops to 33%. if you look at these answers by some, again, demos that we thought would be relevant to this question, how often do you visit downtown? Are there differences by age, and are there differences by gender? So if we start with age, it's sort of in the middle there, because that's where there's not differences. We didn't see a difference in safety, whether people felt safe or unsafe, either at night, which is at the 2 rows at the bottom, or during the day, the 2 rows at the top, by age. Okay. We did see some differences by frequency of visiting downtown. So those who visited downtown the least, so 0 days, right? 51% said they felt safe during the day. If you had visited downtown at least once, you were somewhere between 70 and 77% felt safe downtown during the day. If you look a little bit lower, downtown at night, 11% who hadn't visited downtown at all felt safe at night versus 36 to 38% who visited downtown at least once. Okay, this is where it's really tricky, because you visit downtown, are you more accurate in the description because you have experience, right? So you might say, I visit downtown, I've seen it, I know it, it's safe at day, or it's a little bit less at night. Or do people who generally feel safer in all environments, are they more likely to venture downtown? It's a little bit hard to disentangle, but those who visit more often are more likely to say that it's safe during the day and at night, although the night numbers are still well below 50%. By gender, there is a difference at night. Women are less likely to say that they're safe, or another way to say it, women are more likely to say it's unsafe at night than men. 63% say women say it's unsafe at night versus 52% of men. So some others here. Your neighborhood, where you live, during the day, 88%. Your neighborhood where you live, 77% at night. So a lot of the safety concerns really are somewhere else. Right? Somewhere else matters to those people, and matters to you if you feel unsafe about traveling there. But also, people, when they're at home, by and large feel safe during the day and at night. 88% during the day, 71% safe at night. On the other hand, if you look at the at night number, 29% feel unsafe at night in their own neighborhood, and that's, the 71% is important, but I don't want to minimize that 29% either. That's nearly a third of folks who are feeling unsafe in their own neighborhood at night, which is meaningful. So then here that, again, you've seen this, the South Salem, West Salem, North, Northeast Salem. Those are our 3 areas. There's a line, a bit of a faded line, but there's a line there in the middle. Above the line is during the day, below the line is at night. So that first one is South Salem during the day. If you skip to the below that sort of grayish line in the middle, you see South Salem at night. So South Salem during the day, 80% feel safe in South Salem during the day, versus 57% who feel safe in South Salem at night. Okay. If we look at Northeast Salem, 58% feel safe in Northeast Salem during the day. 26% feel safe there at night. So that's a pretty big difference. Again, we would expect people to feel safer during the day than at night. But that number for North and Northeast Salem at night, it stands out to me, is something to really be paying attention to. Now, this is among all residents. So this is so people who live in South Salem and West Salem are asked this question about North, Northeast Salem and vice versa, right? So some of this could be impressions. It could also definitely be real experiences, but it certainly stands out. Councilor Brown?
We'll wait till the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. There's a lot here, and there's too much for me to talk about. Here's where I'm going to say, all right, if you want to know safe different parts of the day, different parts of the city at day, at night, by area, by age, and by gender, this is the slide you want to spend some time looking at. Again, you'll just by gender, you'll see that highlighted for men, that means that men felt more safe in all these places at night than women did. That's sort of the way to interpret this. But there are some important differences here. So livability is more inclusive when we define it for our participants, but includes things like safety, but also cleanliness, ease of getting around, access to quality services, affordability, jobs available, sort of that big picture, not just safety. And then again, we ask people just to rate the livability of different parts of the city. So including your neighborhood, which 74% said that the livability in their neighborhood was either very good or good. Then you see South Salem, about 70%, West Salem, 59%, downtown Salem, 33%, and then that northeast Salem, right around 30%. This is a trend we see throughout the data, so it's probably not surprising here. This is something we'll want to measure across time to see if things change and where improvements can be made. If we look at some of the sort of differences here by some demographics, so these show the total good livability in people's individual neighborhoods. So, for example, if you live in West Salem, 82% of people in West Salem said that the livability in their neighborhood, was good. In North and East Salem, 65% said the livability in their neighborhood was good. That's the way to read this. So we do see by area that Northeast Salem, that livability is lower, 65% versus over 80% for the rest of the city. That's outside the margin of error. It's a real difference. Younger people tend to see lower livability than those who are older. And renters tend to see somewhat lower livability than those who are renters. All of these, though, are above 50%. So I also want to say that most people in all parts of the city, most people regardless of age, and most people regardless of housing type, say that their livability in the neighborhood is good, but there are differences worth paying attention to. The service distribution. This is something we've been measuring over the years. Thinking about the part of the Salem where you live, this is the question here. Thinking about the part of the Salem you live, do you feel that your area receives its fair share of services? So in 2022, when we asked this question, 50% said yes. In 2025, when we asked this question again, it's up to 60%. Again, that's that trend where things have improved from 2022. If we look at the number in 2025 by area, those who live in West Salem said, 60% in West Salem said that their part of the city receives its fair share of services. 52%, the bare majority in Northeast, and 70% in South Salem. Okay, those differences are statistically significant. They are outside the margin of error. And if you look across time, again, this is a question we've been benchmarking. You see that same pattern, not quite as stark as some of the others, but if you look further back in time, that green line, that sort of sense that your part of the city was getting its fair share of services was generally higher than it is now. But also the number today is kind of held steady or actually just even improved just a little bit from 2022, the last time we measured. And communications. 2 in 5 residents engage with the city via social media, which is higher than any other forms of engagement. So 40% said that they, in the past 6 months, that they had liked, commented, or shared any social media posts from the city. It's a pretty big number. You can see submitted a comment on a city project or initiative, attend a city council meeting, attend an open house, community meeting, or project-related meeting at 16%. A couple things about this. One, I've done lots and lots of qualitative focus group research with people all across the state, and there can be confusion about what layer of service, which layer of government provides your service. So there can be confusion. Was it Salem? Was it Marion County? Was it Polk County? Was it the state? Was it Chariots? There can be some confusion about that, and that's just the reality when we ask a question like this. The other is that we didn't specify whether some things you maybe did in person or whether you did it online. So, like attend a city council meeting, if you are watching the live stream, do you say yes to that question, or do you have to be here to say yes to that question? And that's something we want to think about how to flesh out in the future, because I don't actually think 18% of Salem residents have been in council chambers listed. But maybe they watched a YouTube video, or maybe they saw something forwarded to them on a TikTok or whatever it might be. So that's a little bit hard to parse out. But if you do look across time, we do see that top there is that social media. It's at the highest point that it's been, and quite a bit up from 2021. And you can see the other trend lines as well. Here are some demos. I won't go through these right now in the interest of time, but if you're interested, you can see how some of the demos shake out. So any other questions we asked, just, about city communications? People could, say which was closer to the way they felt. One option was it's easy to understand what's happening, what I can do about it here in Salem. Another is it's not always clear why I should care about a topic when they're getting communications from the city. So 21% say it's easy to understand, 49% say it's not always clear why I should care about a topic, which I'd say don't beat yourself up about these numbers, try to improve them across time, but it's really hard to get people's attention, like for anything. And so don't overly interpret this negatively. And here we do, again, track it across time. So here it's this green, it's easy to understand what's happening and what I can do about it. This is when they get communications from the city. So again, we see higher in the past, but then also some improvement from 2022 to 2025. So that's the general pattern throughout the survey. And this demographics, if you're interested, I won't walk you through these, but it's in the deck. You can see all the demographics of the participants, and they're going to match the demographics you'll see in the city at large if you look at census data. With that, I will entertain any questions you have, or just turn the meeting back to you.
Councilor Brown? Okay. Anyone else? Councilor Tigan?
Just on that last slide showing about the communication, just that jump from 2018 to 2019, I'm really curious, like all the way back at the start of your presentation, and I'm going to ask this question, but I want you to know that I trust your methodology. Sure. I'm just curious about it. Has there been a change in how many people have picked up the phone and answered the question as opposed to the text messages? Yep. And do you correct for that longitudinally, like from year to year?
It's a great methodological question. I'd have to go back and look at what year we started doing text messaging for the city of Salem, but certainly if we look back to 2017-ish, I think 2017 is probably all telephone number. I have to go back and look at that. But when you first introduced text messaging, it was like 75% phone and 25% text. Okay. Now, not just for Salem, but for sort of projects at large, and really the industry at large, it's more right now, I forget what we did for Salem, but it would have been something like 60 to 65% would have been text message and the rest of it would have been phone. It's tricky to do, so one analysis you just might want to do is like, all right, if you answered by phone, you take that audience of people, like, do their answers meaningfully differ from those who take it by text message? And that's a great analysis to do. The trouble is that the people who answer by phone are not like the people who answer by text, right? They're demographically different, they're psychologically different. And so to make those comparisons, it's not really that helpful. It's not as helpful as you'd like it to be because we're really trying to compare two different audiences. I will say, in general, when you're answering a survey on a telephone, you can be told that you can say don't know, but don't know responses, unsure responses tend to be lower on the telephone when you're talking to somebody than when you're answering visually and you see that don't know option. So that's one consistent thing that's not unique to this survey, but is sort of an artifact of just visually seeing something versus hearing things. 2018, 2017, if you're asking a methodological question, I can't promise you that there's nothing happening with methodology that's going on there. I will say what I can promise you, though, is that things are happening in the world and in Salem that change people's attitudes. And methodology may play part of the trend as well.
If I can follow up, sorry, and I'll apologize for asking a methodology course, because I think the results are way more interesting than how you achieve them. I'm curious, just from your company's engaged with the city for a long time, and you've also engaged with folks across the state. From your perspective, what was surprising about the survey? Like, what stood out to you and as something you just didn't expect, or maybe something that feels uniquely Salem about it?
Uniquely Salem. I'm not going to answer the question you're answering, but maybe I'm going to back in there. I'm going to tell you, the thing that I want to communicate to you is this. Two things. One, when you look at these charts and look across time, and you see things that people felt better than they did today. there can be a tendency to only focus on the numbers on the right. And of course, that's where we are today, right? And they're lower than the numbers that are on the left. One thing that I will say to you and every group that I talk to is those numbers on the left matter. They matter because it tells us within very recent time, we were capable of this. There's some conditions that exist in Salem or in Oregon or America that made us possible where most people felt positive about things. And I don't want to give any of us to give up that exists today. That's one thing I sort of want to pass along. The other is that in Salem, and we are seeing this, so this is the part where I struggle a little bit with an answer. In Salem, we're seeing this like modest tick up from the last time we measured in 2022. I didn't know for sure going into this that would be the case. Now that tends to be the trend we're seeing in other places as well, so that's not unique to Salem. But I didn't know going into this we'd see that in Salem. And like I want that number on homelessness to drop. I would like it to get back to where it was probably in 2017, close to zero. Also, it's important to recognize where successes have been made. And from 57% or 58%, whatever it was a few years ago, to in the 40s now, that's a meaningful change in the salience of that issue in the community, and there must be something there that matters to people. So 40% is not a great number. I don't want to pretend that it's not, but it's also an improvement, and I want that to be acknowledged as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. And actually, thank you for touching on the homelessness statistic. I had a couple questions on that. So I think it's slide 9. The big decrease from 57%, 58% in 2021, 2022 to 43% now. Was the survey able to kind of attribute that decrease to city action and policies, or was it like a state trend or like a national trend?
No,
okay.
Not this survey. It's a great question. It's an important question. It's a question that deserves to be asked. It just wasn't really, this survey wasn't the vehicle to ask that. I will say in all the other work that we do, there's just a great tension between on homelessness. You know, we use lots of ways to describe it, but one way to describe it is sort of is homelessness mostly a result of a lack of affordable places to live, or is homelessness mostly a result of mental illness and drug addiction? Again, the world's more complicated than those two things. But when people answer homelessness like this, you're going to have some of both of those sorts of attitudes that are showing up in how people are thinking about it. So I don't know for certain, but I will just say it is somewhat less top of mind now, for whatever set of reasons, than it was a few years ago.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I do.
Okay, Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. So to follow up where Councilor Vang was in that same slide, we do know that there has been some progress when it comes to our unhoused, our unsheltered, our homeless population. There has been some progress in the past 5 years. And at the same time, we have had some relapses. We also know that when it comes to affordable housing, we have quite a few folks that still don't have a place to live. Mm-hmm. Some of that is by choice. Some of that is by, if you are in a place, in a shelter, and let's say you're struggling with substance abuse. And if you are, and if you do that in a place where we have taken you off the street and now you're in the facility, if you do that there, you're going to get kicked out. So we have quite a few folks in our city that have had housing before, and then they have a mental addiction with drugs, and they can't get off of it. One of the things that you said in regards to people feeling unsafe, you mentioned the word perception. Would you care to elaborate on why you use that particular word when it comes to the data that already shows us that it is statistically significant? Why the word perception?
Sure. In this survey, we asked people if they visited downtown, and we get a range from 0 to more than 20 days in the last month. So some people haven't visited downtown. It's 14%, I think it was, but some people hadn't visited downtown even once in the last month. Their perception by their experience is different than somebody who visits downtown 20 times a month or more. It's not a judgment of what it is, but just it's a difference. Also in the survey, we did not ask if they had visited West Salem, for example. So if you live in North Salem, like we didn't ask if you visited West Salem, but we did ask you perceptions of safety in West Salem. So it's possible people are answering their questions about safety in West Salem or vice versa, and maybe they haven't visited there. That's just data that we don't have in this, so I want to be careful. Like, we asked them what they thought on some of these, but we didn't have the opportunity to ask them where or how they got that information. So that's why I used the word perception. Hopefully not to minimize it, but I wanted to be careful with what their experience was.
Right. May I follow up, Madam Mayor? And I appreciate you going deeper with that, because if you have someone that lives in South Salem, and according to the data, folks feel way safer in West Salem and South Salem. I live in Northeast Salem. And so if you live in West Salem or South Salem, I think there's going to be the perception that if you don't travel in Northeast Salem, and if you've heard things, or if you read what's in the Salem Reporter or the Willamette, whatever, however you get your news, you're going to believe by what you've heard that Northeast is unsafe. And so it's very hard for folks to understand that if you don't live there. Does it make sense?
It makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
And to go a little bit deeper, when you understand what safety looks like and feels like to people, is very different. If I lived, and my apologies if you live in West Salem or South Salem, because I'm going to pick on you for a moment. If you live in one of those communities, there's a tendency for you to feel really safe. Really safe. And I would challenge folks that when it comes to safety, safety involves not only perception, but it also involves in where you live. How do you identify with what you see every single day? For example, if I were to take you in my car and we go for a nice little joyride and we go to Northeast Salem, and let's say we decide to go at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Northeast Salem looks very different if I were to invite you to go with me at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Because what you see at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning looks very different than 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So some people are saying, well, Dr. Brown, why are you saying that? Because I've traveled at both times. I can take you right now to show you abandoned vehicles in Northeast Salem. It'll be hard pressed if I were to take you to West Salem or South Salem to find the same thing. I'll let that sit there for a moment. And if I were to ask one of the folks that are here, whether it's Chief Omac or the Assistant Chief Ditto, they would bring their data and they would share with us why it is that folks in Northeast Salem feel unsafe, because they're going to break down the data when it comes to crime, when it comes down to drugs. They're going to go through all of that. And there is a perception that more of that takes place in North and Northeast Salem. And I only share that with you. There's not a question here, but I want the folks that are in this space and listening at home is that there are some challenges that we have ahead of us, because to handle perception, that is a gigantic job. To change how folks see us and where they live, that is a gigantic job. And I sit here somewhat puzzled because I don't have the answer to any of this. Actually, I do, but I'll save it for later. And one final question for you. You and your team live where? Where do you guys live? I know you don't live here, correct?
No, Portland.
You live in Portland?
Yeah.
And what part of Portland?
Me? I live in inner Northeast Portland.
Northeast. So how long have you been there?
I've been in inner Northeast for about 12 years. Before that, I lived in downtown Portland.
And somebody's probably thinking like, Brown, why are you asking all those personal questions? The reason I ask that is because, again, depending on where you live, perception matters. If you were to go into LO, for those who don't know what I'm saying, that's Lake Oswego. There is a perception of safety in LO versus to where you live. Would you agree?
Sure.
I'm only saying that because I used to live in LO.
Our office is in Lake Oswego. I was downtown Lake Oswego today.
Yep, and when you live in LO, you can leave your doors open, windows unlocked. You leave all that because why? There is a belief that we live there and it's safe. And I tend to unpack that in such a way because perception changes every single day. And I stand to believe that we have to do a better job when it comes to changing the perceptions to make sure it's more reality. Thank you.
I would just point you to this slide, Councilor Brown. When we asked people whether they felt safe in their neighborhood during the day, those who lived in North and Northeast, 83% said that they lived safe in their neighborhood during the day, compared to 96% who live in West Salem and 90% live in South. If we asked the same thing about at night. 61% of those who live in North and Northeast Salem said they feel safe in their neighborhood at night, versus 75% in West and 82% in South. Which is not a comment on anything, your comment, but I just wanted to be able to point everybody to this table so they're able to look at that.
Councilor Vang.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you maybe like a basic question,
Sure.
but in your presentation, I know you had mentioned defining livability as clean, safe, easy to get around.
Yep.
Was that defined to the survey participants? Yep. Oh, okay.
It was, yeah.
Thank you.
In those specific examples, that's the way it was defined, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Matthews.
I just wanted to ask a question about the kind of overall, I know 43% say homeless on this slide as our biggest concern, and 19% say public safety. And down at the bottom, when it kind of defines out what public safety is, it says crimes, drugs, police enforcement. But what I'm not sure is where mental health would fit in here. Would that go under the public safety banner, or was that not statistically?
Depends on how it was mentioned. So Phoebe here, she's got, so this table here does not represent every single comment that was mentioned. We cut it off at 3%. Mental health was mentioned by 2% of folks. So it has a separate category that didn't show up high enough to make it into this slide.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Councilor Tigan.
Thank you. To Dr. Brown's point, I think we also need to accept responsibility. We're the purveyors of perception as well. And I go to bed every night in downtown. It's where I live. It's my house. And I love my daughter. Just recently, she forgot to close the door on our truck, which was parked out on Church Street, and the door was left open all night long. And I walked out there in the morning, and the last handprints on that car were hers. No one broke into that truck. No one stole anything out of it. The door was left wide open all night long in downtown. So we also have to take responsibility for the stories that we're sharing about our own communities. And I feel safe in my neighborhood at night. I live in downtown, and I feel safe during the day. That's just my perception, and I want to share it. But I do want to ask another question about how to use this survey data.
Sure.
Because as Courtney said, we're starting our strategic plan. I look at some of the trends in here, and you've mentioned in your interpretation of it that a lot of this is just we're kind of along for the ride nationally within Oregon. These are just perceptions that people share about wherever they live, and it includes Salem. But I'm curious from your experience if a community has been able to use something like a strategic planning process to respond to something in a community satisfaction survey like this successfully and say, okay, this is the thing we're really going to focus on. And because of that focus, within a couple of years, they were able to change perception that challenged the national trend or the statewide trend and said, wow, they really did something different here. And the numbers show it in years' time.
So a little bit outside the scope of what my expertise is. I don't do the strategic planning sort of bit. Often I'll work with those sorts of team members from a different sort of consulting or internal, and this is data that inputs their action. Clearly, whether we look at this slide or the other slides, like attitudes, experiences, priorities change over time. Salem lives in where lots of things influence this community, but you have control over things you have control over. What I think is most important, what I would want, I think, is a pollster to say is this. There's lots of ways to collect information. This isn't the only one, right? There's town hall meetings, there's city council meetings like this, there's your own constituency work. There's lots of input that you get. There can be lots of different perceptions and said with certainty about what people think and what people want. My hope was that a survey like this can be a table setting for you all so that there is some clarity about where the community is at. Not necessarily what you should do about that, but at least we can agree that, you know, most people, the plurality of people in Salem think that homelessness is the most important problem, right? Maybe there's a disagreement about that in council or in the community, but like we asked and this is what they told us. So there can be some agreement about where the community is at on things. There can be choices about what you decide to prioritize in your policy making. And we can measure across time whether or not people see and experience those differences, recognizing that when you make those policy changes, they're not going to happen in a vacuum. The world's going to keep on moving and you can't control a lot of that. But I think it's like being clear-eyed at what the best that we can measure, what the community is paying attention to, making choices about what to prioritize in that context, and then measuring it across time whether or not those are making the impacts that people want. And then also just to reiterate, this is not the only piece of information gathering that you're going to do, nor should it be. Yeah.
Councilor Nordick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you. This has been fascinating. Slide 42, please.
Oh, 42. Yeah. There we go.
Thank you. So I just wanted to highlight this. 2 in 5 are engaging with the city via social media. And I don't know if you or your team can answer my next question. I am struck by how many are engaging through social media, which I think is great because it's cheap. It's an affordable way to engage with your residents. But then when you scroll down to your slide 45, I'm wondering if there's any connections we can make here. 49% of residents said it's not always clear why I should care about the topic, versus 21% said it's easy to understand what's happening and what I can do about it. And I'm wondering, do you remember from your data, the folks who are engaging with us on social, were they more likely to answer, yes, it is easy to understand what's happening, what I can do about it?
I love that question, and I wish I had that answer at the tip of my tongue. Phoebe maybe is able to look at the crosstabs for us. If she's not able to pull them quickly, we can get back to you, but that data is available. Yeah. I'm not sure if we have it broken down that way tonight, but we can break it down that way so we can answer for you.
Councilor Matthews.
So just on the perception side of things, I guess, since that topic kind of went there, I mean, I think we each have our unique experience in our community, right? I live in South Salem. I have had my car broken into in front of my house when it was unlocked, so, and yet statistically that shouldn't have happened. But I'd also say that, you know, I also don't want to gaslight people into thinking that this data seems to be somewhat representative of where our hotspots are for crime, right? We know that downtown and Northeast Salem traditionally seems to have our hotspots, and so that does seem to be somewhat lining up, at least the Northeast side, with kind of that safety feeling. And so I don't want to discount the fact that it does statistically also seem to vet out where our crime seems to sit too. So.
Anyone else? Yeah, Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. I'm going to direct you to slide 15.
Sure.
And I know that when you had presented information to us once before, this was kind of a subject that I spoke about, or maybe it was somebody else, I'm sorry. I see that growing job opportunities in the local economy, and we talk a lot about housing costs, and I'm trying to understand when they're asking about job opportunities. We have a fair amount of seniors, a fair amount of retirees.
Sure.
And I'm trying to understand the percentages of those that are maybe not looking for jobs.
Sure.
And also trying to understand what job opportunities they're talking about?
Sure. We can, I don't have it at the tip of my tongue, but if you may be able to look it up, we certainly have these numbers broken down by age. That's something we can easily pull together for you and get back to you on just, I don't have employed, not employed, but if we just, even if we look at our older age residents versus younger age residents, certainly if you're older, you still can care about job opportunities even if you are not seeking one. So it's still, it means something different to you perhaps, but I think it's still relevant. And I guess to maybe pivot back to one of the previous questions, like, you got 54% say they're not satisfied with growing job opportunities in the local economy, and that is certainly, if we look here, that's the one that really has that's the purple there at the bottom where that trend line didn't pivot back up this year. It's not my place to say, but this is an example you might use today. You might say, all right, well, here's one where we didn't make progress this last time. Like maybe this is not, again, this is for you to decide, like maybe that's one we want to focus on, and however you decide to focus on. But that would be a way to use these data to help make some choices with your strategic planning.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, Phoebe was telling me satisfaction with job opportunities is slightly higher for those who are older.
Okay. If no one has any other questions, John, Phoebe, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very informative. All right, we're moving on to item 5D. Madam City Manager.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I need to do my little part. I move to adopt resolution number 2025-22, fiscal year supplementary budget 2, increasing expenditure appropriations, authority, and revenues in the general fund for police, parks, fire, and adding 2 career police officer positions.
Second.
Motion and a second by Gwynn. To your motion. Madam City Manager.
Sorry, my first assignment and I failed. I started before you. I apologize. So I just wanted to say, like, the data the DHM presented, that was fascinating. There is, I think we're going to kind of do a little bit more into in-depth analysis on it, because you're looking at sorry, I know this is not public safety, but I just have to make a comment about, if you look at the economic development and the affordable housing and the job opportunities, so there is that connection to different neighborhoods and the services that they're receiving. So there's a lot more, I think, that we can explore from that. So wanted to kind of thank Courtney Knox for leading that effort, and there is more to come on that through the strategic plan. So coming back to the safety and livability, the staff are excited to kind of bring this proposal. During the council work session on September 17th, the council has given us the direction to bring a proposal for supplemental budget for safety and livability strategic action plan. And I know Councilor Teigen, I've said this before several times in the community forums, but we as a staff and me personally thank you for pushing us to kind of do this sooner than later, and then kind of doing it starting in like November. I also wanted to kind of, I know there's a lot of work that has been done in this area since like June. This council met like 2 work sessions and then several council meetings and the information report, a lot of questions. And here we are really kind of moving forward with some actionable items. So it is it is exciting. The other piece that what I wanted to one of the pieces that we are working on as a leadership team and also from the staff perspective, as we are looking at new services and as we are moving forward with that future, it's important to also look into opportunities within, which is there is quite a bit of work. Josh, Chief Financial Officer Josh Eggleston and his team, and with the department heads, to be looking for those cost-saving measures and to be looking for other opportunities. And then when we see the fund balance to be higher than what it is, to be very calculated and strategic about investing into your priorities, which is very important. So I think having that conversation really allowed us to come to where we are at and able to move forward without impacting too much on the general fund. So that's kind of what we are excited about. So I just want to take a minute to say that I'm very proud of the work that this council has done and also the staff. And it's almost like, I don't know, 4 months we were running at a very faster pace on it. So here we are. So with that, I also, as Josh is coming to the podium to talk about it, want to take a minute on the public engagement side of it. There are different forums that we engaged. What I really liked about it, there are people that came to us and say, hey, we want to talk about this. So let's kind of engage in this conversation so that we can come together as a community. And I felt like the community came together on this from different perspectives. So with that, Josh.
Thank you. Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer. I'll be providing the presentation this evening for Supplemental Budget 2. As Krishna mentioned, you've been having conversations about this subject for quite a while. This is the first step, a pilot program that combines 3 different areas, including safety, healthy, and clean initiatives. This program either expands already existing services in the safe and clean categories while adding a new service in the healthy category, and we'll go through each of those. Starting with safe, the police department's homeless service team partners with the Parks Division, Salem Outreach and Livability Service Team to help clear encampments, provide coordination of resources, and prevention of reoccupation. With this budget action, 2 permanent police officer positions will be added to this team. It will expand the cross-departmental team's ability to provide service to 7 days a week from 4 days. So adding 2 officers for a total of 4. This in turn will reduce unmanaged encampments, increase outreach and referrals for services, and provide improved safety in public areas. A new program that is proposed with this budget action is in the healthy area and includes a new capital area response and evaluation team, also known as CARE, in July 2026. The pilot program will include a funding for a paramedic, an EMT, and a Marion County provided mental health professional to respond to non-emergency behavioral health calls. This will aid in reducing public safety resources from responding to similar calls, improving coordination with community partners, and increasing access to substance treatment. The final area is clean in the Parks Division portion of the response team described previously. This budget action will add expenditure authority for overtime disposal costs and some contracted services to help with cleaning. This will expand the service to 7 days a week and include faster trash removal in downtown and northeast Salem, cleaner public spaces for the community, and reduce trash buildup. Here's a summary of the budget action before you this evening. The increased expense will be paid from the beginning working capital of the general fund. The city budgeted in fiscal year 2026 a beginning working capital of $30.7 million. Although we have not finalized fiscal year 2025 and it's not officially closed, additional revenue has come in of approximately $850,000. Through this budget action, we'll be recognizing this unanticipated revenue to pay for these expenses and increases to our contingency. I do want to note these are pilot programs that if they're going to continue, they'll have to be evaluated in the 2027 budgeting process that will kick off here soon with the Budget Committee. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just kind of as a reminder, the last time we talked about it in the work session, the long-term solution on this, that is not going to be 100% a general fund obligation. So there are different funds that we are exploring on how to pay for that long-term. And this is kind of a near-term solution. The pilot program, the reliance is on the general fund.
Does anyone have questions? Councilor Nordyke?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Josh. I just want to make sure I understand. For the HST position, the goal is to add 2 more positions. Are we adding 2 new FTEs to the police department? Because I know they've had about 10 vacancies or so. So I'm just curious, is this adding 2 more people on top of the vacancies that are currently active in the police department?
Yes, that is correct. With the understanding if the Budget Committee and ultimately City Council chooses not to continue the program, that we would eliminate those 2 positions through attrition.
Thank you. And then I saw the SOS team, you're not adding FTEs, that would be overtime, and you said contracting. Is that correct?
That is correct. So in order to implement that quickly, those positions were very challenging to hire for. So in order to implement quickly, that team was willing to step up and work some overtime to ensure 7-day coverage and add some contracted services for some specific cleaning and the additional refuse disposal. So in the short term, it would be overtime and contracted services. If the City Council would like to continue that, we'd like to transition it to full-time employees at a later date.
Thank you. And then you probably know where my last question will be. For that care team pilot, you said those would be seasonal positions within the fire department and EMT and paramedic. Would those be adding 2 seasonal positions, or would we be pulling existing EMTs and paramedics from, are they already employed by the fire department, or would we be hiring additional people, in other words?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I believe the fire department is in the process of hiring additional paramedics and EMTs, so they might not be existing, but I'll defer to the fire chief if you'd like to speak.
Good evening, David Gerbeau, Fire Chief. Thank you for the question. We are in a recruitment process right now for paramedic and EMT. Our first recruitment is going to be for internal candidates, and if internal candidates want that, then we're going to stick with them first.
Great, thank you. And for those who may not be so familiar with what an internal candidate is?
Yeah, currently employed EMTs and paramedics.
Terrific. Thank you, Chief.
Yep.
Thank you, Josh. That's all I had.
Councilor Nishioka.
Thank you. One, as we've had many work sessions on this, I'm really pleased with this plan. And I know that these are pilot programs and we need to see how we can fund them. Serving as chair on the Solid Waste Committee, as you and some others know, for probably close to 2 years, I have been advocating to bring on 2 new homeless service team officers and 2 SOS team, and potentially either increasing the franchise fee at the solid waste as was recommended by the revenue committee, or simply adding a small fee. So I know that that was discussed in the work session in September, and I'm just simply bringing it up because I am so excited that this is something that we're bringing forward because it is so needed. Thank you.
Councilor Matthews.
So we just obviously had a large presentation that was all data driven and kind of where everyone's sitting right now on perception of safety, perception of cleanliness, all these different pieces. So my understanding with most pilot programs, you usually have a baseline, which is what we have right now. And traditionally at the beginning of the program, you set your goal for where you're trying to get to at your measurement point. And so I guess for me, what I haven't heard is necessarily where our goals are at that 6-month time when we're going to evaluate it using the kind of data that we just got our baseline, I'm assuming, off the statistical analysis we just received. So do we have that? Do we know what we're actually going to be measuring for success?
Yeah, appreciate the question. The staff report outlines desired outcomes and performance measures for each of the areas. I don't think they're comprehensive. We're still evaluating other measures that we might use. We're also evaluating when and if additional surveys or polls might be helpful for the budget committee as we go into those deliberations in April. The ideal would be to have concrete information in March, April, so that the budget committee can have actual data to look at.
So, Counselor, so one of the pieces that I think we'll be working on as a staff is, I understand that as we are evaluating the pilot program, the ideal place to be in is we have both the quantitative data and as well as qualitative data. And we are in the process of identifying what that combination is, and we will be bringing more information to the council as we are preparing for the pilot program, and so there is more to come. So we just have to kind of figure out how to kind of combine both of them. And for a data-informed decision, we have to have both quantitative and as well as qualitative. So I acknowledge that, the staff acknowledge it, so there is more to come on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And that's my biggest thing is I don't want us to just get all the way down the road of this and then be looking at our data, trying to find the success in the data. I want us to find out what we're spending our money on that's supposed to be changing, and then making sure that what we're spending our money on, that it's actually changing that thing. And so that's why I want to make sure we're identifying it pre the pilot program starting, so that we're not changing the narrative when we get to the end of the program. Does that make sense?
Councillor Brown, did you have something?
Oh, I do.
Councillor Nordyke, go ahead.
It is a shorter question. Josh, looking at the staff report, the budget action includes a recommendation to add a little over $168,000 in contingency. Can you just explain what that contingency is? And it's a very specific number, $168,190. I'm just kind of curious how you arrived at that number.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So we identified a certain amount of working capital that we anticipate came in additionally for fiscal year 25 into 26. So that 168,190 is the balance of what we're not appropriating for services. One unique aspect of Oregon budget law is if you don't appropriate it when it's anticipated, you can't access it ever again. So it would fall to unappropriated fund balance. We'd never be able to get to that $168,000. Our contingency has been overspent the last several years, so we wanted to make sure we were able to access that if needed. Again, contingency is just a budgeted account. We have to come to council to access it.
Councillor Brown?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Mr. CFO. Appreciate the presentation. My question is about those folks who don't have a place to sleep, right? And so I know we're heading into changing of the seasons, colder outside, darker days, and this is typically the season where a lot of folks on the street don't have a place to live. This is where we see just a lot of more folks go into the ER for a variety of reasons. And so my question is are we going to spend some time thinking about how these particular pilot programs are going to work with the current folks who are providing services? I see she's shaking her head.
I was asking Councillor, sorry.
I see Director Bennett getting up. Everybody's moving.
So I would like for Director Bennett to come in and kind of start the conversation, and then Chief Gurbath can come and add more to it.
Councillor Dr. Brown, Council and Mayor Gretchen Bennett, Acting in Capacity Community Services Director. It's a very good question. Just this morning, we were problem solving a person 80 years in age who's looking for assisted living, medicated supported bed that are scarce. So it's absolutely an issue, especially for our aging population. That being said, all three of the components of healthy, clean, and safe Salem work in this context with our community partners, working very carefully to try to identify what is that person's need and ability to be able to access something, and then we're going to have soft handoffs to make referrals to help them get into those services.
And I appreciate that answer, Director. And I kind of knew that you were going to probably come to the podium and give some insight on it, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I do want to say, just from our colleagues up here, I'm very supportive of this particular direction we're going, because I know we have to do something. But I also want to say something that's probably very unpopular, so I'm just preparing the stage ahead of time, that as much as I value the folks who are EMTs, police officers that are part of the team, helping folks, stay safe. I'm in support of all of that. At the end of the day, I just do not think for a second that it is the responsibility of someone wearing a badge to clean up the issues that we have in our city. I just don't see that. Meaning that we have some well-qualified folks who are working 24/7 to maintain, our safety, that are always on their watch, who we are all very appreciative of. At the same time, I struggle with taking those folks who are doing this to be a part of other teams that are basically cleaning up our streets. And so I say that only because I know that we have given a variety of monies to entities, throughout the city to help with folks who are struggling with either mental health issues, substance abuse issues, or just sleeping on the street. And so I say that because if I had a magic wand, right, if I had a magic wand, I would wave it, but I would start in Northeast Salem, just so you know. I would start there first. But I would wave it because I would love to see the folks who I saw today, sleeping in encampments, by the Orchard Park apartments. I would love to see the folks that are sleeping off of Portland Road. I would love to see all of them, in a place to, that we can take care of them. And I said a comment earlier about how our streets look different at night, and I'm going to say something again that's not popular to say or to even hear, but it does involve the safety of the folks who are on our streets. Because when you are out at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and you see folks walking on the street, a lot of them are not just walking because they just out 1 o'clock walking. No, a lot of the folks walking late at night, a lot of them are under the influence of something. And that's unpopular to say because when you have been on ride-alongs with, whether this with the fire department, if you've seen folks OD in front of you, and I know that's not something that we all signed up for, but it's not a pretty sight to see. And to see folks, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Gerboth or even Chief Ditto, is that when we see a lot of folks on the street, I know there's a term that we use, I don't like this term, but they look like they're zombies almost, to where they're walking under the influence of something. And that's unpopular to say, and no one wants to say that. But it breaks my heart when I am driving off of Hawthorne, or I'm going through Fisher Road or Ward or Lancaster. It's a very sad sight to see so many folks at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning who are standing on the street corner and they're going from side to side. And they will be there for hours. And it breaks my heart. So I wish we could fix all of it. And I know that we have folks in the uniform and the badge, and they've been trying desperately to help all of us. But at the end of the day, I want us to know that this is a big problem, and we have made some progress, and I am hopeful for the pilot programs. But I also want to say that we're going to have some courageous conversations to say the things that folks may not want to hear. And when you see people struggling with mental health and they're struggling with substance abuse issues at 1, 2, or 3 o'clock in the morning on the street corner, that is a part of our city. It's a part of our city. And I think we just got to find a way to make sure that we can do this a little bit better. So thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it.
Councilor Varney.
Just really briefly, I wanted to say how much I appreciate City Manager Namburi and Josh and staff and everybody that put information into this staff report, because we have been asking when we bring things like this up, projects or whatever, how we're going to measure our progress, how do we determine whether we're meeting our objectives, how do we use that adaptive management to be able to change what we're doing if it's not working. So I just wanted to say how much I appreciate for each of those 3 components. Each of them have expected outcomes of this pilot program, key performance measures that we can track, and potential efficiencies. And I just wanted to say thank you because it's really impressive.
Yeah, Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Mayor. Josh, Ms. Namburi, maybe, I don't know, one of the 2 of you, but I'm looking on the clean slide, and the 2 of you noted that the SOS team is on a temporary increase from 4 days to 7 days, and we're trying to find funding to make it more sustainable. I know Councilor Nishioka had mentioned the utility fee, but what other resources or sources of revenue could we look at to make the SOS team sustainable 7 days a week?
Yeah, appreciate the question. I do think a franchise fee increase, as Councilor Nishioka mentioned, would be appropriate. Other unrestricted revenues would also be appropriate if you were looking at the city operations fee or other general revenues. Unfortunately, there's not much just out there ready for it, so it would have to be a unrestricted city revenue.
I just asked that because I recently did go out with our homeless service team, and to me, it just makes sense to make sure we track our homeless service team with our SOS team, because a lot of what they do coincide or play along with one another. And so to me, if I'm looking for this to be long term, if we're going to increase our homeless service team, I would want to increase our SOS team to make them both 7 days a week long term. And so if we can find other ways to fund the SOS team, expand the team, I'd love to explore that further. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Councillor. So, and I have been very transparent and clear on this, is as we are looking at expanding these services or adding services, I think it's important to also look at the geographical area and the different funds that are available to us and the resources that are available to us. The one thing that we did talk about, the paid parking, and so there is more to come on it. We will be coming to the council sometime in January to see how the fund is performing and how that can be used to improve the downtown area. And then we are looking at the existing funding to be redirected to the rest of the city. So there are some options here. So we'll just figure it out once we see the fund performance. We also talked about EMS fund. We'll get an idea in January how the EMS fund is performing. So there are different fund sources, and we also have restrictions on what we can use for in which areas and which services. So we also have those constraints. So within that, we will be bringing something back to the council. If it is a sustainable solution, I don't want one particular fund to be liable for all of the services. So we should be strategically or kind of in a smart way distribute our services. The other piece that what we're trying to do through this pilot, and this is kind of the mantra that I like it, try small and fail fast, right? That means we're going to try something. If it doesn't work, then we'll adjust and try something differently, right? So that's kind of these pilot programs allow us to do it instead of spending too much money at the same time.
Anyone else? Well, I'll just add a couple of things. One, Councilor Brown, I hear you. Just yesterday, I had a person come into the restaurant, one of those folks you were talking about, and he didn't have any shoes on. And I asked him his name, and I said, you can't be in here without shoes. And he left, and 30 minutes later, he came back with shoes on. And I thanked him for doing that. And I was able to walk him out after he played a little video poker for $1. And he was on his way. There's that. There's also the fact, kind of like Councilor Taiga in your story about your truck door being open. I was out in Wallace Marine Park with Be Bold Ministries on both Friday and Saturday, and someone did come out to get the help that they need. So things are working when the time is right, and it's every little victory needs to be counted. So, yeah, thank you, sir. Does anyone have anything else? Oh, and by the way, let's not forget that Bloomberg, Harvard, and the collaboration track is walking alongside of us while this is happening. So it's it's feeling very hopeful to me. Josh, thank you so much.
We need to vote. We need to vote.
If there's nothing further, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Vang.
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke.
Absolutely.
Councilor Varney.
Aye.
Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we're moving on to the information reports.
Excuse me. We're doing 5F.
Oh, we have an F. Here we go. That's an addition. Oh, it's an addition. Okay, sorry about that. Please go ahead.
I move to reduce the general fund transfer to the airport fund by $100,000 per year for 3 years and assign those funds towards the minimum revenue guarantee for commercial air service at the Salem-Willamette Valley Airport.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Gwynn. Councilor, to the motion.
Thank you. I will read the summary, and then I believe Krishna is going to be making a comment. Community efforts to assemble a minimum revenue guarantee have been successfully raising pledged amounts totaling $400,000 per year for 3 years. A minimum revenue guarantee is an airline's industry standard incentive provided to entrants into commercial airline market to attract and sustain airline operations during an initial startup period. The minimum goal for a viable MRG is $500 per year for 3 years to recruit an airline for commercial air service at Salem-Willamette Valley Airport.
Thank you, Councillor. What I would like to add to that, and Councillor Nishioka, thank you for directing staff and identifying all the resources that we can find for this MRG. And I also heard from the council that the council did not want to spend any more money from the general fund to pay for the MRG than what it has already been assigned. The council did make a commitment to pay a certain dollar amount towards the airport, and that's kind of where you guys wanted to stay. So from that, I'm very thankful for the community partners that they were able to come up with like $400,000, which is a much larger number than what we started with. And that gives us like $100,000 gap to reach that $500,000 MRG. And I'm looking at Brian Martin and Mark Bechtel. The staff have done a really good job in identifying some cost savings in the airport fund. So the idea here is we will transfer $100,000 less from general fund to airport fund, and instead that $100,000 will be directed towards MRG. And also, I also look at that, hopefully it is a temporary measure, because we will be active in applying for those grants. And from now to whenever, if those grants are available, then we are not going to pay anything out of general fund. So we don't have to pay that $300,000. So that's kind of where we are at. Hopefully we'll be able to get some grant. And also from a timing perspective, it gives an opportunity to explore the airlines and see if there is an airline that is willing to come for that particular MRG. So it's like that we're trying to kind of do 3 different things and make sure that we are managing the timeline also because of the TSA requirements, and we don't want to lose that. And then we will be very active in applying for those grants. But if those grants if we're not able to acquire those grants, it is going to be a general fund responsibility for $300,000. I just want to be very clear on it. If you have any questions, and staff are here to respond on that.
Anyone have questions? Councillor Varney, your hand went up first.
Thank you. And thank you for the information. coming to us to ask for general fund money again really doesn't sit well with me at all. $100,000, reducing that from the airport fund means staff reductions. And I'm not supportive of taking away jobs from workers to subsidize commercial air when we're going to have a busier airport. So I wanted to say that bothers me. One thing I haven't seen here is maybe offsets or offers in our fee structure, perhaps that commercial air or the use of commercial air could provide to help fill that gap. For example, when I looked at the City of Salem fee schedule, I was thinking, of all these fees, are there particular ones that could be increased that are directly related to commercial air? Things like the fuel flowage, for example, you know, it's a set rate whether you have commercial or non-commercial. Some things are split up here on commercial and non-commercial. But I think if we're thinking about bringing commercial air in, trying that again, that it should provide a little bit more revenue to the airport to be able to help offset this. And that's the way I feel about it.
Councilor Matthews?
Well, I just want to add, you mentioned the jobs aspect, and that kind of got me thinking. And so obviously we've been used to having commercial air service for the last few years, which was coming into the airport several times a week, and that increases the staff that we would need for that. And so by not having commercial air service, I've got to assume we would have a reduction or at least a lesser need for staff at the airport generally. So do we have a proposed staff reduction if we don't have a commercial air service?
So, Councillor, I would like to, Director Martin, if you can comment, answer Councillor Varney's question. And then, Councillor Matthews, I do want to kind of get to that after Brian is done answering Councillor Varney's.
Good evening, Brian Martin, Public Works Director. Thank you for the questions. We did this last year actually increase several of the fees. One example, the fuel flowage fee increased from 8 cents a gallon to 10 cents a gallon. Of course, that does across all planes that get fuel, but that is a 20% increase. We're working on adding the landing fees that we can track. So, and there's other areas that have increased. One thing we would look at if we do get a carrier back again is also parking fees. Unfortunately, when we actually negotiate agreements with a carrier to come in, they look for breaks on a lot of these things. So even though we would offer this MRG to them, we would likely expect them to want to have reduced fuel flowage fees or landing fees the first couple of years of service, which is not uncommon. That's what we did with a Velo. So I think the MRG is the first part. If we're fortunate enough to get somebody to come in, we can look at these fees going forward, and we can always make adjustments. We look at them annually, and we could also look at it again if need be. As far as the positions go, if we do not attract commercial air service, we'd look at dropping back to the position level we had before commercial air service came in. That was 4.5 positions at the airport. We bumped it up to 9 positions to support the commercial air service. We really didn't know how active or how many flights we were going to get. When a Velo came in, you know, they bumped up to, I think we were at 7 flights a week at one point in time, and then they dropped back down to 2 at certain points in time. And talking with our staff, we feel comfortable going from the 9 that we're allocated now to 7.5. So we get by with a position and a half less than what we had when a Velo was here. And we're comfortable with that because a lot of the effort was getting the programs in place and getting security set up. There's a lot of upfront work that we had to do that's been completed. And so we feel that if a new airline comes in, it's probably not going to be a bunch of flights right in the beginning. Maybe it's going to be 2 week, maybe 4. We could get by with 7.5 FTE versus the 9.
So, Brian, I think what would be helpful for the council to know is, as you are proposing those cost savings for the airport fund, it's not, are those vacancies, are they going to be layoffs? I think that information probably would be valuable.
Yeah, excellent point. So we would not be looking at layoffs right now. We have 2 vacancies. we'd be looking at just converting that to 1.5. So right now we're going with the 2 vacancies and waiting to see if commercial air service is going to come back or not. If it doesn't, we'd look at then dropping to the 4.5. And then we'd have to figure out, do we have other positions in public works or elsewhere for those people to go? Or if not, would we have to look at layoffs? And we have not concluded that yet.
Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Director. So with the question of going back to the jobs that Councilor Varney mentioned earlier, when it comes to folks potentially being laid off, we wouldn't have to have that discussion until spring of next year?
Yeah, we'd probably look at it with the next budget cycle if we would need to do that. Our goal would not to have to be to lay people off.
Right.
But we'd have to look at what other positions are available elsewhere in the organization.
Right.
Can I just I want to make sure that we're answering the right question. So with is a question about if we are going to reduce the general fund transfer to airport fund by $100,000, would that result into layoffs? Is that what the question is, or? Okay, so the answer is no on that. So I just want to make sure that if we don't have a commercial airlines, that's a different story.
Correct.
And the impact to the general fund, again, I think we're going to wait until the next budget cycle to talk about how that could possibly impact the stress on the general fund, correct?
No, because if we have, Brian, I don't know how much we are allocating to transfer from general fund to airport. Whatever we are assigning right now, we are allocating and we have forecasted. That's exactly the amount, because the idea is to transfer $100,000 less than what we have budgeted, and then instead use that $100,000 additional to pay for the $100,000 gap for the MRG.
Thank you.
Councilor Gwynn.
Are we currently negotiating with an airline? Are we close, or because there was a timeline that we were given, like if we don't have something, if we don't have a plan by like October, November, the TSA is going to come in and remove the equipment. So I'm just wondering where we're at with that.
Yeah, that's correct. So the middle of November is the 90 days after Avello stopped having service at Salem, which is the threshold when the TSA would then come in and decertify our federalized airport certificate. It would also allow them to move the equipment if somebody else or another airport had a need for that same equipment. Mark Bechtel and Aaron Eisen were meeting with the TSA last week, and they definitely would start the decertification or the defederalization process. However, they said unlikely that the equipment would be picked up by somebody right away. It would go on a list, and other eligible airports would have the ability then to put in a request for that equipment. It wouldn't happen overnight, most likely, but the defederalization process would. So back to your first question, are we in negotiations? We're not in negotiations yet. Our airport consultant has had meetings with numerous airlines trying to gauge their interest. He thinks this would get them interested, but we haven't actually formally started any negotiations because we haven't had an MRG that we could bank on yet. So if we get that authorization tonight, we will have something concrete that then we can go directly to that airline and say, okay, here's what we've got. Let's talk.
Councilor Tigan.
Thank you. I think this is such a fascinating issue for so many reasons, and in the end we have to vote on something. But I think there was something important in the response that you just made I wanted to comment on and just confirm. I think sometimes people think it's the city council maybe that's negotiating with airlines to come to the city. Are any of the city councilors in conversations with airlines to your knowledge?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Yeah, the only discussions at this point have been with our airport consultant.
Okay, so when we're recruiting a commercial airline to come to the airport, it's a function of city staff and the city consultant to pound out the negotiation once we authorize something like an MRG.
That's correct. We'd also have our partners with Travel Salem and Fly Salem. They generally get involved as well since they're providing such a large contribution.
Okay. I just want to let the community know who is and who isn't at the table. Thank you.
Councilor Bang?
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of questions here. Thinking back to the city's experience with Avelo, is there anything the city or consultant could do in negotiations to prevent another commercial airline from pulling out of Salem Airport prematurely like Avelo did? Is that even within our negotiating powers? Would you know?
I'm not an expert at that negotiation, but from what I have heard, I think it's tricky. Most airlines have the upper hand when it comes to these types of agreements. We could certainly try to write as much into an agreement that we can, but ultimately when you're negotiating something, it's a negotiation and they have the right to not enter into that agreement if they choose it doesn't work to their interest. I would say though, if they do choose to leave and there's money left on the table, so for example, Avelo left, they did not use that MRG, which means that the money that they didn't ask for did not go to them. So if in this case someone chose to locate their airline in Salem and they left early, we would not pay them money for time that they weren't here. They would only get paid for time that they were here if they had to actually tap into that MRG. And again, that MRG is just to provide the cushion between the minimum amount of money they need to be profitable when they fly their flights. So if they're profitable, they may not have to use any of the MRG. If their flights are not full or they're under capacity, that's where that MRG helps fill the gap between profitability or losing funds.
And then, thank you, Mayor. Councilor Matthews, in our earlier discussion, had brought up metrics in terms of our pilot programs for the Safe Clean Salem. And that got me thinking, can we put some sort of metric on commercial air in Salem for this new commercial air that may come to Salem for us to gauge 18 months from now, was this a successful investment in redirecting airport funds for an MRG? Is that something that has come up in conversation since our work session?
I believe the numbers that were demonstrated from Avelo were that approximately 80% of the flights were full. It showed that they were doing a good job. They did not request MRG reimbursements every month. There were quite a few months where they did not have to request funding. And then there's a metric for how much money went into the local economy. So I think that contribution to the local economy is a metric to gauge. How much they use the MRG would be a metric to gauge. We could talk to our airport consultant if there were other measures we could look at, and that's something that we could think more about going forward. But I don't have a better answer for you right now than that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Tigan.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I kind of seem to remember the consultant, and he's not here tonight, but you know, when we had our conversation the last time around, he mentioned it was kind of like something my dad said about insurance once, which is like insurance is to have, not to use. And it kind of seems that you know, the more you use insurance, the more expensive it gets, was kind of his point to a 17-year-old kid, but who had may or may not just gotten in a car accident. But the point I think he was making is that we use the MRG and that kind of puts us in a competitive disadvantage, right? And the MRG is sort of to have but not to use is kind of the sense I got from him. And I'm curious maybe to Councilor Vang's question about what's transpired since the last meeting, the work session. The thing that I was hoping for, and to the council, I really want to acknowledge that the fact that the community came together, the folks who influence how the TPA is used, and that's the tourist tourism promotion area, which I believe is where some of the money came from. I think it's great that we got the kind of community response we got after our last meeting, because we said to the community, like, look, we need something more. And I still am under the opinion that we need even more. Like, I think our ambition about this is too small. And that I think what happened when Avelo left the entire West Coast is that cities and airport authorities that were in a better negotiating position were able to get those routes filled sooner because they had something like an MRG revolving fund available to them to negotiate, like in what seemed to be hours notice. And that's not something we have, and I don't know that that's what's being set up. It kind of seems like what we're doing is just doing Avelo 2.0, and that feels like it's going to lead to the same result. So I'm curious what other conversations or what other things maybe we've heard from our consultant to get into a more competitive position than just doing what we've done over the last few months, which is good, but it doesn't seem like it's the way that Redmond and Eugene have been successful.
Yeah, what we have heard is the more money, the more leverage we have, or the likelihood for success we have. And so having that type of revolving fund would be great. We don't have that yet, and I'm not sure if we will get there. It would be nice to get there. I think the contribution that the community made to date is significant. If council chooses to add the 100,000 to it, it gets us to the table, but it's not ultimately where we really like to be, which would be something more significant, so that if we ran into something again, we'd be able to do what Eugene did or Redmond did and be right there for the next airline to come in. That's something we've got to look harder at and think more about going forward. I'm thankful we got to where we got to already with the community. There's probably more work to be done, but this is a good start.
Go ahead.
Well, I would just, to the council and to the community that I know is interested in this topic, as one of the 9 decision makers at the table, I really value what the city has already invested in federalizing our airport to make it a commercial airport, which to my understanding is at least $7 million over the last 3 years of general fund and also grants that have come in. So that's to improve the airport physical structure itself. Some of that was URA dollars. It's to hire the firefighters. It's to hire the police officers. We have made a significant commitment, and will continue to make a significant commitment as this moves forward. And something that I said during the work session that I'll reiterate is that I believe that when the community is having conversations about what is the worthy amount of investment in this airport, that the $7 million we spent over the last 3 years are part of the table stakes. So if we agree tonight to put on another $100,000 into that pot, we're not going from $0 to $100,000. We're going from $7 million to $7,100,000. And so I'm established to the point that I'm not in the conversations that are happening in the community about this, but from my chair at the city council, this is how I see it. We've invested millions and millions and millions of dollars federalizing the airport, and I want all those partners at the table. I want Yamhill County at the table. I want Polk County at the table. I want Marion County at the table. I love that the hotels are at the table. That $32 million of economic impact, none of it comes to the city council. None of it comes to the general fund, and in fact, it's negative. So we want to create the situation where that economic development happens. Those job opportunities go from 30% to something else, but none of it comes back to the city. So I just really want to make that clear.
Councilor Matthews?
Well, I mean, I agree with you, Councilor Teigen, that we do need a longer-term option. I think that what we're being asked to do tonight is really just the short-term option to keep the ball rolling with commercial air service and risk that we may lose it altogether. But I agree that having just a singular airline in perpetuity won't get us anywhere. And so having some sort of longer-term solution for more consistent funding would be fantastic. But I also want to clarify, in my opinion, I don't think that economic impact doesn't come back to the city. I think that to say that business expansion or business being attracted here or people having more jobs in our community that are then able to pay taxes, those are the things that do come back to our city. And to see that our numbers show that people aren't happy with our job growth, that businesses don't feel like they're being supported here. I mean, that's what we just saw. I think those are all important factors. And you can see that from the partners that have come forward to raise the $400,000 per year, they see the value in this, and you know, those partners are fairly well spread. They're Travel Salem, they're business community, they're Marion County, they're community members, they're hoteliers, and I'd love to see more come on. Don't get me wrong. Please feel free to call if you're interested. But I see this as kind of an opposite thing. I see this as the allocation of $100,000 is a saving of 3 positions, because the reality is there should be no reason I'm hearing that we would keep these positions at this airport. We would cut the 4.5 positions that we allocated for commercial air service. And so to not allocate the $100,000 to the airport tonight is to say we accept that we'll cut those 4.5 positions, and to give the $100,000 per year effectively saves 3 of those. And it's not already money that we've already allocated to the airport. This is not new general fund money. This is money we've already allocated, and we're taking it from the vacancy savings of that 1.5 position or FTE. So to me, it seems like a no-brainer because it's money we had already planned on spending towards the airport. This way, we just kind of get that cake and eat it too. Just like any other grant we would take where we would spend $100,000 of our own funds to get $400,000 of someone else's, we would do that, and we do it regularly. And so to me, that's what this is more akin to. So.
Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And this is not a question. I've heard this a few times from City Manager, and Councilor Teigen has said it, and Councilor Matthews has said it also in regards to grants. I think there's value if we were to talk about having some sort of grant team for our city where this team of 2 to 3 folks that's their job, consistently to go after grants, to do the writing, to do the research, because for those of us that are up here, we know going for grants is not an easy process. And so if we're going to be doing this work and we're all in, because obviously we spent millions of dollars on this already. And so part of me says, how do we build on what we have? So.
I just kind of not for a discussion tonight, but Chief Financial Officer Eggleston and his team are looking into what that looks like. So hopefully, we're not adding more positions, but we'll be exploring what our options are. So.
Any other questions? Thank you, Director Martin. Ready to vote? Will the recorder please call the roll? Yep. Oh, one more question?
If it's okay. Yeah, and thank you, Councilor Teigen, for bringing up how much we've already spent on this. You know, we got a lot of feedback from folks with Avello in terms of how much we'd spent and what happened. My concern tonight is we just approved, spending another $600,000+ out of our general fund for addressing the safety and livability and cleanliness that the community has been asking for. Those were the things identified on the survey. I didn't see commercial air on the survey. And so at this point, I can't support this evening just because we are investing in something the community has asked for broadly. I like the idea of pulling all the other counties together and really building this coalition for commercial air. But right now, I'd rather focus on a I mean, personally, faster way to get up to PDX. Anyway, thank you.
Anything further? Okay. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Nordyke.
Aye.
Councilor Varney.
Nay.
Councilor Tigan.
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka.
Aye.
Councilor Matthews.
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn.
Aye.
Councilor Brown.
Nay.
Councilor Vang.
Nay.
Mayor Julie Hoy.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, we are now moving on to information reports. I'm just going to read these through. If you have questions, please just stop me. All right, item 6A, the hearings officer decision to allow short-term rental within an existing single-family dwelling. Approved. Item 6B, hearings officer decision, a conditional use permit for a short-term rental within an existing single-family dwelling. Approved. 6C, planning administrator decision, a partition to divide a property into 2 parcels and subsequent middle housing land division to divide 1 parcel into 4 lots. Approved. Item 6D, changes to the City Council review of land use decisions are being implemented due to recent changes in state law. Councilor Matthews.
This is more of just a heads up for everyone, so you know that I'll eventually may be coming back with a motion to change some of the way we do our appeals process in land use because of this. The state law is really clear in the fact that for the actual application portion, we should have no actual input and we have no ability, but it's also the way our current appeals process works. We eliminate the ability for any of our neighborhood associations to have any counsel with us or us to have any impact at all on issues that they're having. And so I think that there's an opportunity to maybe change how we do our appeals so that we still have at least some ability to take some of the community's input forward. So nothing tonight, but just letting you know that in the future so it's on your radar.
Thank you, Councilor Matthews. Okay, moving on to item 6E. Councilor Varney.
Thank you, Mayor. This particular item has to do with a project that the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board worked on over the past year, and I wanted to say I appreciate and recognize the time they put into the research and the presentations they did for the Parks Board, for the Climate Action Plan Committee, and for the letter that this item has. I wanted to ask one of the members of the Salem Parks and Recreation Board, Debbie Miller, to come up and just briefly just mention why did they take this on, and just, you know, I know we don't have much time and it's getting late, but just talk about it a little bit.
Hit the button.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your time. I know it's getting late. I'm on the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and I was on the committee that did the research. And we took this on because we want to help in a way that parks can help and things that affect the parks with the Climate Action Plan. So we chose 3 different topics, and the one that I was involved in was electrification of landscaping equipment. And really, we learned a lot with this, and we realized that the parks have already started to electrify landscaping equipment because there's a lot of reasons for it, but the costs have gone down, and the benefits are higher than they used to be, and the efficiency has really gone up on this. So the climate is changing, and so we brought. That's the one that I worked on, and we already have like 25% of our equipment that has gone to electrification within the same as the parks and urban forestry. So it's already moving that way. But what we recommended was that we should come up with a policy possibly so that we could have a consistent way to move forward. And so that the city of Salem it has a recommendation, and it is in the letter. This is just the part that I worked on. But in general, to use battery electric tools for replacements when a suitable battery electric tool is identified with equivalent or improved operational capacity and within cost premiums. In other words, when replacing non-serviceable or less efficient equipment, we should prioritize battery electric over gas-powered equipment. It's a pretty simple policy, and we kind of are going that way. It doesn't change an ordinance. It doesn't make it illegal to use, gas-powered equipment. But there are a lot of benefits that we've learned about in this project that I think would benefit the city. It also would provide leadership. So the city of Salem, as part of the Climate Action Plan, wanted to provide leadership and to show leadership in this area. And this is one sort of relatively simple way that we could do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. All right, we are moving on to item 6F. Purchases approved administratively from September 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2025. Councilor Matthews.
And Josh, I don't know if you might be the best person to answer this, but it's always a preference of mine that when we can, we go local, right? It's always objective. And so when I was looking through here, I noticed there were 4 different POs that went out to Ford, and only one of them went out for bid, it looked like. And that particular one, a local company won, but the other ones we used our cooperative agreement. And I'm not 100% clear what that means, or did those all go out for bid and it just happened to be that Gresham Ford had won the low bid on all the rest?
Yeah, appreciate the question. I can get the detail for you. If I recollect from purchasing review, we sent them out for bid and we didn't receive a response. We went with the cooperative agreement with Gresham Ford for those items.
Thank you, Josh. Moving on to item 6G, the mayoral appointments to the... Item 6G, announcing mayoral appointments to the Local Option Levy Oversight Committee. All right. We're moving on to no ordinances, no first reading, no second reading. It's time for public comment. I'll call 2 names at once. And please come forward to the podium, press the button, make sure the green light's on. Did you need something? Kathleen Treppa and Jim Shepke. Please announce your name, your address, or your ward for the record.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Kathleen Treppa, Ward 7. I am a retired local government professional and a relatively new Salem resident, and I came out of my retirement closet when I read about Keith Staley's sudden resignation and the mayor's machinations. I was appalled. As an advocate for good governance, councilors should never, ever discuss city business with a majority of other councilors outside of a properly noticed public meeting, regardless of what the city attorney says. And for something as sensitive and significant as the performance of a city manager, the mayor could have and should have called for an executive session, but she didn't. Instead, she called all of the other councilors at the time to discuss her thoughts on the matter and to ascertain theirs. Then, according to an investigation by the State Ethics Commission, after she spoke with all the councilors, in my humble opinion, she lied about what they individually told her and told the council president that the majority of the council wanted Mr. Staley to resign, which wasn't true. And unfortunately, Councilor Nishioka then communicated that to Mr. Staley, ironically, after the city attorney told her she shouldn't contact the other city councilors. The mayor denied her colleagues the opportunity to discuss a draft operational audit and the city manager's performance together as a team. And just as importantly, she denied Keith Staley, a seasoned professional, an opportunity to respond to any concerns. Whether you approved of his performance or not is not the point. It's the fact that the mayor instigated a behind closed door manipulation to get him out. That's not integrity. That's not moral character. It's not ethics. That is cowardice. When you are elected by the people, for the people, you conduct your business and share your opinions in public. But we're not done. To make matters worse, The mayor then compounded the big lie with another statement that doesn't resonate as truthful when she read a prepared statement to the State Ethics Commission during Friday's meeting. In that statement, she accused Councilor Nishioka of lying. In my opinion, this mayor is not interested in governance. She's only interested in furthering the objectives of her supporters, regardless of means or method. I think you should resign. And so do almost 400 other people who have signed a petition calling for your resignation, which was submitted today for the public record, and names are still being added to that petition. And for the record, I'm not registered with either party, and I haven't been for decades. But I am committed to promoting and advocating for good governance. You aren't qualified to be an elected official. You haven't displayed the attributes needed to be one: commitment to laws, rules, norms. You haven't displayed the integrity and moral character, the courage of conviction, or even the intellect and curiosity to understand the issues at hand. Operating behind the scenes is cowardly, and I think you should resign.
Thank you for your testimony. Jim Shepke and Andrea Randall.
Jim Shepke, Ward 2. I'm here to defend the honor and the integrity and the honesty of my city councilor, Linda Nishioka. At the Ethics Commission meeting last Friday, the mayor stated that Councilor Nishioka, quote, lied in the aftermath of her meeting with Keith Staley to protect herself, unquote. Is that the truth? Either we believe Councilor Nishioka's story, that she was told by the mayor that a majority of the council wanted Staley gone, which led to his resignation, or we believe the mayor that she never told Councilor Nishioka words to that effect, and Councilor Nishioka was to blame for the resignation. Fortunately, we've had a thorough investigation of this by a professional investigator for the Ethics Commission, and this is the story he tells. Page 10 of the Nishioka investigation, and I quote, Linda Nishioka speaks to Julie Hoy over the phone. They talk about the leadership audit, and Hoy informs Nishioka that a majority of the city council wanted Keith Staley to resign, unquote. Page 17 of the Hoy investigation, quote, the mayor admits to Councilor Nishioka that she spoke to every councilor about the matter through one-on-one conversations. Mayor Hoy then communicated the results of her conversation that a majority wanted the city manager to resign. We also have the story from Keith Staley himself in his resignation letter, quote, Linda Nishioka represented that she was the duly authorized representative of the mayor, and a majority of the city council had requested that I tender my resignation. I believe the investigator who confirms Councilor Nishioka's story. It was the mayor who told two lies. First, she lied to Councilor Nishioka when she said she had heard from a majority of the council that Staley should resign. The truth is that no one she talked to wanted Staley to resign. Then she lied to the Ethics Commission when she said that she did not tell Councilor Nishioka that a majority of the council wanted Staley gone, and Councilor Nishioka had lied about this. We already suffer from an occupant of the White House who lies on nearly a daily basis. We should not have to suffer from a Salem mayor who similarly has a problem with the truth and is willing to slander our council president in an attempt to cover up her own misdeeds. Thank you.
Andrea Randall, and then I believe it's Desiree Lefebvre.
Hi, I'm Andrea Randall from Ward 1, the owner of B3 Beauty, Beverages, and Books, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about signage. I've been a business owner for over 10 years, and I opened the bookstore about a year ago, and I have never had so much trouble with fees and licensing in regards to signs for advertising my business. And come to find out, I'm not the only person here in Salem having that problem. On an average, I have about 13 different licenses that I have to have all current in order just to exist. So if you add how much it's going to cost to all of the different signages, I mean, you've got freestanding, you have banners, you have sandwich boards, you have paintings on your windows, all of those things cost, and it adds up. And it's kind of silly because 75% of my business is from people walking by or driving by, and they go, "Oh, I saw your sign." And I had to take them down or they were going to charge me $500 a day for my banner. Right, it's kind of dumb. I don't have that much money. I'm a single mom. I mean, we all have sob stories, but that was dumb. So then the neighborhood thought I actually closed down. So if I had known that where I was going was going to have a law like that, I might not have chosen where I decided to set up my business. And I know that each area is a little bit different when it comes to where money is going to go. But if we find a different way to communicate to small businesses, layman's terms, maybe an app, a QR code at the, what is it called, the Secretary of State, and we break it down so that us business owners can look and say, oh, maybe I won't move there because I'm not allowed to have this kind of sign. Because the guy across the street who has his sandwich board that looks like it was made from duct tape and desperation is not being charged. Me, my fancy, beautiful one with not a piece of dirt or anything on it, I had to take away because they said I was not paying for it. I even leaned it up against my building, and that was wrong. So that's why I'm here, so maybe we can come together and come up with a different idea. We can talk to somebody, figure something out, because I'm not the only small business owner that is broke, and we don't have the money now to do the signs to get the people to show up, to pay for the signs that you need to get the people to show up, to pay for the signs that we need. So you can't see the forest through the trees. Guys, nobody can see my bookstore through the fees.
Thank you for your testimony. Desiree Lefebvre and Rachel Atchison.
Okay. Mayor Hoy, Manager Namburi, and City Council, I wanted to tell you a little bit about maternal health in the United States, and there's a reason I'm doing this in Salem. I'll get to that. I co-lead a project for maternal health nationally, and I've learned a lot about it in the last few years while I've been doing that. I'm also a midwife of 25 years, and I am finding that things have changed a lot in that 25 years. In fact, it used to be that women died subsequent to pregnancy because of preeclampsia and hemorrhage, and in the rest of the world they still do. But in the United States, they actually die subsequent to mental health. So that's addiction, untreated depression, suicide. And what's happening in places like Norway is 0.3 women per 100,000 dies subsequent to pregnancy. In the United States, which ranks 55th in the world, 22.3 women die per 100,000 subsequent to pregnancy. So that's hundreds and over 1,000 some years in the US who die. When we know more than half of them are from mental health, I feel like we need to take action. So my goal, I also own a birth center here, and I have for almost 2 decades. It's a thriving place. There's a lot of clients there, and I feel like we have a finger on the pulse of what is happening with young families in this area. What I believe that we need to do, and my business partner and I are working to try to start, is a maternal health project separate from our business, which actually is providing community for people, because one thing we found post-COVID is that people are even more isolated than they were before, and people are really struggling with their mental health, anxiety, and depression, especially after pregnancy. So what we would like to do is acknowledge in our community Black and brown women are way more likely to die subsequent to pregnancy, and that everyone in this country has risk for this. What we'd like to do is create a community center. We're working on finding funding for that right now. I'm here telling you about this for 2 reasons. One of them is that I have a leadership position nationally, and I feel like if we do this successfully here, we can do it, not we, but other people could replicate it elsewhere. In addition to that, it is, when we look at we were offered partnership with OHSU to do something called Center M, which we're working on doing right now. That is going to be addressing cognitive behavioral therapy for pregnant people. And we want to be able to extend that past. And what we need to do is find grant funding. We do feel like grant funding in 2027 will be easier. In 2026, we don't have grant funding. We have very little. And what I'm asking is for connection and possible support.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to extend for 10 minutes.
Yes, I would like to make a motion to extend for 10 minutes beyond 10 p.m.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Rachel Atchison, and then Manny Martinez.
Hi, my name is Rachel Atchison. I live in Ward 3. I'd like to address my comments tonight to Mayor Hoy. Since you have been sworn in, I have regularly attended City Council meetings and have watched your continuous struggle with basic leadership functions. You seem to have trouble organizing and synthesizing presented information. You have appeared to check your phone during meetings as if awaiting instruction. You have exceeded councilor comment time with orchestrated PR shows at unknown expense, and you're rarely able to speak extemporaneously, usually reading prepared statements. After your almost 3 years of experience in council chambers, I still watch you at every meeting, turning to your right to whisper for direction from the city attorney, or to your left, whispering for direction from the city manager on how to move the agenda forward. This failure to grasp the basics of Robert's rules, in my opinion, demonstrates arrogance and disdain for democratic norms. I have previously been up here attempting to bring attention to your disregard for the city charter, for your refusal to speak to media, and to perceived ethics violations that we now know were actual violations. I watched last week's OGEC hearing, and I didn't witness any humility from you, nor did I hear any apology for dragging your fellow councilors into that mess. At this point, if I were in your shoes, I would be tendering my resignation in shame. At barest minimum, you owe the citizens of Salem and every member of this council a public apology for your behavior.
Manny Martinez.
Good evening. My name is Manny Martinez, and I live in Ward 2. After listening to many conversations regarding homelessness, I truly believe that there's much more agreement than we may realize. We often hear stories of a single mom with kids who's escaping an abusive situation. She may find herself living in her car or on the street. We all agree that we want to help this person. A housing first model is appropriate for this case. We also recognize that there's an increasing number of elderly people among the homeless. Many of them are suffering from severe health issues and are genuinely unable to work. We all agree for these individuals, housing first is an appropriate model. But then we have the significant portion of the homeless community that are suffering from addiction. As a result of their addictions, many will commit what the city calls livability crimes. And while we can have compassion for the fact that they're suffering from addiction, we must recognize that these crimes are causing great harm to our community. These individuals are generally able-bodied adult men and women that desperately need help recovering from their addictions. For these individuals, a housing first model is not appropriate. For the significant segment of our homeless population that are suffering from addiction, we must have a shelter-first, housing-earned model. This shelter-first, housing-earned model must have high standards of accountability in order to encourage recovery. There would need to be a zero-tolerance policy on the possession of drugs and weapons. Sobriety, or at least the willingness to embrace sobriety, must be required. I speak from experience on this issue. I'm a recovering alcoholic with over 6 years of sobriety, and I'm an extreme case. It's a miracle that I'm alive, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that accountability is one of the most crucial elements of recovery from addiction. A shelter-first housing-earned policy that's well coordinated with the necessary mental health and recovery services will offer these individuals the life-saving opportunity to recover from their addiction. In this process, the individual can then earn the opportunity to receive additional help with housing, but only after they've displayed a consistent and enthusiastic desire to recover from their addictions and also begin to contribute to this great city. This is how recovering addicts regain their dignity, their self-worth, and their purpose through the hard work of recovery. I encourage the council to examine existing structures in Salem that could be repurposed into shelters. I believe that the creation of new shelters should be the #1 priority for the council moving forward. And once the appropriate amount of shelter is available, the city of Salem must impose a strictly enforced ban on public camping. This is how we solve this problem instead of enabling it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Does anyone have anything further? Yeah, TJ Sullivan.
I'm not signed up to testify to anything, but since people were taking the opportunity to assail my mayor, I thought I would come up and just say a few words in support. You know, as I've known Julie Hoy, she is very humble and she's very honest. Those are two things that I think most people would agree about Julie. The fact that I was glad that we had the people from the polling in tonight, because during the time of Hoy and Staley as mayor and city manager, the perception of Salem being headed in the right direction was continually going down every year. People said we were headed in the wrong direction. And in fact, Keith Staley, as nice of a guy as he was failing in his job, and his wife had failing health, and to call him in for a public inquisition and rake him over the coals would be heartless and cruel. The way that it played out for Mr. Staley was honestly the best thing that could have happened. I think he's happier now where he's at, being able to take care of his family, than he would have been had he had to stay and go through the public humiliation of facing that job audit in front of the whole public. That's not fair. It's not right. And so here we sit, and people are making accusations and saying, well, I believe this person, I don't believe this person. All I know is that Julie Hoy has been honest and humble from day one. She may not be the most polished, perfect mayor. I was there with Janet Taylor when she was mayor, and she was not polished or perfect, but she was a damn good mayor. And Julie, if you're given the time and that Janet had, you'll be a damn good mayor too. There's no doubt about it. You just need the time, we all do, to learn. I sit here, I was on council for 8 years. I watch all of you in judgment and think about, boy, I wouldn't have asked that question, or you should have known that, you should have read the staff report, right? I mean, none of you are perfect. You all will get better with time. I believe that you guys represent a good cross-section of Salem, and you will get better and better as time goes on. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
You guys go up there. Have some respect. Where was the clock? Where was the clock?
Okay, does anyone have anything further this evening? All right, we are adjourned.